Everybody to a new week. It's Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Can't wait to see what happens over the next couple days. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty epic, especially tomorrow, which I will get into. Welcome to the 1 o'clock show, the early show, back to two-a-days until such notice. Tomorrow's not going to be two-a-day. Let me just tell you about tomorrow. Tomorrow is the State of the Union / joint address to Congress, whatever they want to call it, and Trump speaks at 9 p.m. We are going live at 9:30 tomorrow morning. We are going to have an all-day show. We lead off with 10 o'clock tomorrow morning with General Michael Flynn, and then we've got a series of interviews all day. Then I've got some recorded content, and I'll jump in with some news as it comes out. And then we've got interviews all afternoon. I'll take a break at lunch, but I will not be disconnecting. I'll just have a recorded video that will be playing probably Trump's State of the Union from before. So we'll just let that go ahead and play, one of the ones he did. Today, it's all about money. Today, if you're not a money person, if you're not interested in understanding what prosperity and wealth are all about, this show may not interest you. This is all about money. Of course, there'll be some breaking news, and we have some things to cover, like some things that President Trump posted today. He's on fire already. But at 1 o'clock, he's going to be making a huge announcement about a massive investment into the United States, absolutely massive. And then at 2 o'clock, we may miss a little bit of it because you know how he talks when he gets going. But 1:30, he's supposed to talk. And then at 2 o'clock, Melania is doing some sort of workshop. We're going to cover that as well. So we got back-to-back live events. And then we'll just see how long each one of these things goes. And then I've got some video to show you. But before we begin, it's important that I address something that happened last night. I'm not going to go into it really deep. I'll go into it more maybe tomorrow, maybe later today. But nonetheless, let me just cut to the chase. I am and always have been and always will be a free speech advocate and enthusiast. At the exact same time, I am also an advocate and an enthusiast not to listen to you. And I encourage all of you to be the same. I encourage as much spirited discourse, which is a level above free speech, spirited discourse. If you don't agree with something, you have every right to say, I don't agree. But at the same time, if you step over a line and you say to me or any of the people here in the chat that they're effing idiots or this or that, now you're not showing respect. And in that regard, you saw what happens when you come into someone's house and you don't respect them. You get tossed out. You have your model. You saw it last week. Zelensky was, invited to have lunch at the White House, smarted off, and told get out. He had the right to say what he had to say, but also Trump had the right to say, I don't want to hear it, you're gone. That is the business model here. Say what you have to say, but be respectful, because if you're an adult and you're engaging with people, some of these people probably have a higher intellect than you. Some of these people may have a lower intellect than you, but it doesn't matter. We're all adults. You don't like X, Y, and Z? Hey, you don't like it. That's fine. But it doesn't mean someone else is wrong because they feel a different way. And, these mods do a fantastic job. I mean, every single one of them. Beth, Roaring Rage, Severo, Tommy Lawrence, SB, Ashley when she's on, Robin when she's on, to keep the community that we've built the way it was built. There's a reason why, even though we have much less in terms of subscribers of some of these bigger channels, we have much more in terms of the chat and the engagement. I mean, sometimes we will have 12, 15, 20,000 messages or more. People love talking. I encourage people to communicate. But don't for an instant think that any of these mods will ever let you attack somebody personally. So if you don't like the color red, hey, I prefer blue. All right, why do you prefer blue? Well, because I prefer blue because it goes better with my eyes. Okay, I understand your opinion. I don't like your opinion. I don't agree with your opinion, but I respect your opinion. So if that doesn't fit what you want, you can step. Seriously. We have built way too strong of a community here with way too many people who actually care about each other as well. You see, it's just not about me. There are people here, in case you don't know, that will stay for an hour and just talk to other people, even when I'm not talking. Because we built a community, not an audience, a community. And if you want to be a part of this community, then you need to act accordingly. You are free to say whatever you want, but you are not free to insult or offend somebody else. And the dance that you have to make is understanding what will offend somebody else. You may have to learn that the hard way, because you may not be used to talking to 10, 12, 15,000 people at a time. So just slow your roll. Get used to talking to people. No one's going to be offended because you disagree with them. That will never happen. Just make sure you don't step over the line and decide you want to call somebody else an effing idiot or something. Their opinion is as valuable to them as yours is to you. And we need to respect all those opinions. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about it. All right, so let's talk about what President Trump posted today, because he was on fire. Let me post this real quick. Okay, so True Social. He was referring to a statement that Zelensky made. Ukraine Zelensky, this guy doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut. Says, end of war with Russia is very, very far away. And President Trump said, this is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky, and America will not put up with it for much longer. It is what I was saying. This guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing. And Europe, in the meeting they had with Zelensky, stated flatly that they cannot do the job without us, without the United States, which I showed you yesterday. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of show of strength against Russia. What are they thinking? Well, it's pretty easy to know what they're thinking. The Democrats and some of the globalists are telling him, just resist, don't do it. Don't, we got to keep the war going. We're making all kinds of bank. We don't care. And they're pushing Trump to a position where they're getting themselves in grave danger. Is there any other kind? Yes, grave danger. Because at some point, if they start poking that bear called Russia too hard, they may FA and find out over there, which would not end up well for any of them. In addition, Trump posted this, talking about the Democrats in the media, talking about his ratings are going down, and people are complaining and screaming at meetings when he knows and everybody else now has determined paid troublemakers are attending Republican town hall meetings. It is all part of the game for the Democrats, but just like our big landslide election, it's not going to work. Don't get caught in a psyop. They're trying to, I played it yesterday where James Carville said, oh, just give it a month. You'll see what happens. And they're doing it. They're trying to paint it as though people are disillusioned and disappointment. Why? Because they got nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. They're resorting to all kinds of gaslighting and mind games because they've got no real alternative. Let me show you this because, did I post it here? Yeah. Want to see it? When you talk to actual Americans, breaking shock poll, Trump more popular than ever at +8 approval rating, which ticked up in recent weeks, now at 54 to 46. And I've got to fix that, it's too wide. 54 to 46 is his current rating. It's not working. You people are failing at trying to be, gaslighting. It's not working. Then he went on to say this, which is going to be huge. Tomorrow night will be big. I will tell it like it is. Tomorrow being that State of the Union / joint address to Congress, which he's going to be making tomorrow. And it's going to be big. I say it's going to be epic. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight in tonight's show. But he's all over that. And then I think he's got two more. He posted this. The only president who gave none of Ukraine's land to Putin is Donald Trump. Remember that when the weak and ineffective Democrats criticize and the fake news gladly puts out anything they say, which they do. It's all mind games, and it's amazing that the president of the United States has to remind you to keep your head in the game, and for you to keep other people's heads in the game. And then this one, those of you who own businesses were probably rejoicing. I know I was. There's this thing that the Biden administration put in to try and hurt businesses. It was called the Business and Ownership Information Report. You had to file. And if you didn't file this report on time, you could get fined $300, $400, $500 per day until you got it filed. And they wanted to know all about who owned your company, which is completely the antithesis of why you form companies in LLCs. They wanted to know who owns any shares, the whole thing. They wanted it. As of yesterday, and you can also credit Terrence Williams for this. Terrence Williams actually put out a tweet to Elon Musk and said, "Can you do anything about this?" And within 24 hours, this dropped. Exciting news, the Treasury Department has announced that they are suspending all enforcement of the outrageous and invasive beneficial ownership information reporting requirement for U.S. citizens. Why you need this kind of information from U.S. citizens doesn't make any sense. But they're going to continue it for foreign, which makes sense. This Biden rule has been an absolute disaster for small businesses nationwide. Furthermore, Treasury is now finalizing an emergency regulation to formally suspend this rule for American businesses. The economic menace of BOI reporting will soon be no more. And then this is a thread that he's posting, came from the Treasury Department. The Treasury Department is announcing today that with respect to the Corporate Transparency Act, not only will it not enforce any penalties or fines associated with the BOI, but under existing regulatory deadlines, but it will further not enforce any penalties or fines against U.S. citizens or domestic reporting companies or their beneficial owners after the rule changes take effect either. All that's to say is that was another ploy, a Marxist ploy to try to get their tentacles into business. And they wanted to find out everything they could. And of course, the liberals are screaming bloody murder all over this because they can't stand the fact that people want to conduct business and want the freedom to conduct business. I can tell you and that was per LLC. Just to let you know, that was per LLC, meaning if you own more than one LLC, which many of us do. I mean, what if you own 10 or 15 LLCs? They want to know every single thing you're doing. It's as bad as wanting people to dig into someone's Venmo account for $500. They wanted everything from you. Meanwhile, they're shipping money, and they can't even track where they're shipping money. Stealing money, rather. Thank you, President Trump, for that one. A lot of people think when you look at government, that it's very seldom that something touches you directly. You got this government monolith out there. But this touched many, many, many small businesses and entrepreneurs in a big way. A big way. And that anvil being lifted off of our shoulders, can't tell you how good that is, how good that really feels. If you go in your own business or for anything. I mean, one of the things that really bothered me personally is when I buy property in what's called a single member LLC. I never want to own property in my personal name because people are too litigious. So, in that regard, if I buy a property, it'll be 123 Rose Avenue, LLC, 456 Durango Drive, LLC. I name the LLCs according to with the address of the house. And that way I take title in that LLC. I never put it in my personal name. Never, ever, 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 ever. Because at that point you have a shield against people suing you. So if somebody slips and falls, they're going to sue 123 Main Street LLC, not Barry Cunningham. Having that beneficial ownership report before, they wanted to know who's behind this LLC. Well, you shouldn't have to tell people. That's why you form an LLC. That's specifically why you have ownership in that regards. So if you fall and wanted to sue because you fell in front of 123 Main Street, 567 Main Street doesn't get affected. Completely different entity owns that property. You can't touch it. You can't touch that property. That's owned by 91011 Smith Avenue LLC. And that way you can have 20 or 30 LLCs and each one can have its own property and nobody can touch you if something happens. And especially personally, because hey, I don't own it. That's an LLC. So give me a little background on why I'm so happy about that. And today we're going to be talking business. So if you want to disconnect, you're not someone who likes numbers and everything, this might not be for you, but what you're going to hear from Trump is business. What's happening tomorrow morning is business. Everything for the next probably 48 hours is going to be business, even the stuff with Ukraine. So tomorrow, what happens tomorrow morning, Barry? Well, tomorrow morning, this happens. Give me a second. I gotta reduce the size of that so you guys can actually see it. I don't know why the computer messed with the sizing of it. But in any event, that is what is getting ready to transpire tomorrow. Okay, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Oh, why did I mess it up? I keep messing things up like that. Okay, hold on. So you guys can see the whole tweet. All right, you can see the whole tweet right now, and I will fix it so it looks pretty and move things around, and there we go. But anyway, now you can see it. What's happening tomorrow? You're saying, Barry, I don't know what's going on tomorrow. Well, tomorrow the tariffs take place. They go into effect, and when those tariffs go into effect, that's going to be fun because now Canada and Mexico have to, as you can read, let me just go ahead and fix this out. All right, there we go. I think we're good now. Let me move this over. Okay, you can read the whole thing now. All right, you can see, hit the save button, saved. All right. Trump's new tariffs for Canada and Mexico brace for impact. Commerce Secretary Lutnick called the planned 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico a fluid situation, hinting that Trump could ease them since the two countries have done a lot regarding border security. And you've seen the numbers in the border have basically shrunk down to, nothing, lowest in ever, basically. China is set to face a doubled 20% tariff unless it halts fentanyl production. Meanwhile, U.S. steel and aluminum imports will soon be taxed at 25%. So all of this is due to go into effect tomorrow morning, which if you've been following along with what Howard Lutnick and what President Trump have been talking about tariffs, you know that is a big deal. Absolute big deal. That may not come up today, but maybe because if he's talking to the press, they will indeed bring that up. I wouldn't doubt that they would bring that up. In addition, I'm going to talk about this later. SB has a message for me. This is supposed to happen today as well. Trump is meeting with aides to discuss, which I hope will happen, canceling all U.S. military aid to Ukraine. If that happens, you know what's next, right? You know at that point, Trump is going to make liberal heads explode. Speaking about letting liberal heads explode, this just got posted by George, and SB sent it to me. Justin, Kerry Lake has been sworn in as the director of Voice of America to help President Trump dismantle the globalist fake news operation. She will lead a team of about 1,000 people. This is going to be very, very fun. So I'm going to download this video and I'll have it after President Trump speaks or something. And we'll go ahead and talk about it. Just to let you know what's getting ready to happen with Melania. This is happening at 2 o'clock. First Lady Melania expected to speak for the first time since her husband returned to office, highlighting her support for a bill aimed at protecting Americans from deepfake and revenge pornography. Melania Trump to use first public remarks of this term to shine a light on victims of that kind of stuff. So she'll be talking at 2 o'clock. So maybe he'll be on time this time, because otherwise he's going to bump her. I don't think you want to bump the wife. So Trump's coming up at 1:30, and then right after that, 2 o'clock, Melania will be talking. We will cover both. So let's go into, we got a couple minutes before everything starts. Wanted to talk to you and show you a little bit about what happened this morning in terms of everybody talking about the financial aspect of the Trump administration.
The United States of America before 1913 only had tariffs. And then we created, of course, when we entered World War I, we all had to pitch in, and we created, of course, the brilliantly named Internal Revenue Service. That's why it's called the Internal Revenue Service. So Donald Trump has announced the External Revenue Service. Let's let outside people who live and breathe off our economy, let them start paying, and let's reduce the tax burden on Americans. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. This is turning that tariff money back to the American people, and that's what Donald Trump's going to do.
As you know. All right, so I don't know how the Democrats can fight this. I want to see somebody get on a podium or a panel and say, you're against servers and the gig economy. You're against them, not paying taxes on their tips. You have to keep taxing these people. Tell the millions of people who work hard for a living, serving you in your restaurants or your hotels, especially down here where we are full of service industry. Las Vegas, Orlando. Pick your destination. You want to tell those people as a Democrat, no, that's wrong. You shouldn't be. You need to keep paying taxes on your tips. Good luck with that. In addition, no tax on Social Security. You want to tell the elderly amongst us that you're forcing taxes on them? You don't want them to have a tax break? You want to tell first responders that, and everybody else who works and gets overtime payment, they don't deserve to have a tax break? The very definition of overtime means I'm working more. You're giving out money and luxury items to people who don't work at all, but you don't want me, who works overtime, to have a tax break. Is that really what you're going to tell people? This is a backbreaker, an absolute backbreaker for Democrats. To tell people you do not deserve a tax break, when everything we've seen over the last month tells us, yeah, we deserve a tax break. In fact, we deserve a tax holiday. April 15th should just be a holiday with a parade and say, no, don't send any taxes in because we've wasted your money for decades. Oh, you can't even find $1 trillion here or there. But you're going to tell a hard-working American, someone who maybe works 60 hours a week trying to make it for their family, that Donald Trump's saying you're not going to have to pay any taxes on your overtime. How do you even let that out of your mouth? Which is why their messaging is all over the place. They can't stop what's coming. And so they're driving people crazy because they know what's coming next. You've taken your best shot literally at Donald Trump, and he's getting ready to start amping things up. If he's at 54% or 52%, depending on the poll, if he's at that level, what do you think's going to happen when he starts pushing hard for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security, and you're against it? I don't know how you survive that. I don't know a single person in my life who says, you know what, I'm not paying enough taxes. I can't wait to pay more taxes. I don't know if you guys have ever met that person. I don't know who that person is. The problem they're going to have is now how do you pull that definition of fair share down to the woman or man who's serving food in a restaurant, and you're going to tell them you got to pay your fair share. How do you do it? It's a no-win situation for them, and I can't wait for him to begin pushing that hard. What he's going to talk about today is a huge, I think it's like $100 billion investment. Another one, tariffs tomorrow. The Democrats don't have an answer, none whatsoever.
Joe, when our trade deficit goes down, the dollar goes up, imports are cheaper, so that brings it down. And in the limit, and this is where President Trump wants to go, we have more and more investment here that raises productivity and real wages, and that mutes inflation as well. And don't forget the 3Ds. We got deregulation, Doge, and drill, baby, drill. That's the Trump strategy to bring down inflation dramatically. And anything that happens with tariffs, Joe, is second order small. So I don't see the president wavering on any of this, because he knows in order to get to a world in which America is strong and prosperous with real wages going up and factory jobs, this is the path that he's chosen.
President Trump.
I know this kind of information gets people in the weeds because we have been conditioned, as I wrote in my message there, America needs a re-education about being wealthy and prosperous. I think we're not doing enough in schools. Definitely not in colleges. I'm talking all the way back down to high school, where people are taking certain curriculum that does not lead to prosperity. You can forecast a lot of different majors and job positions well ahead. There's plenty of people working at Starbucks that were, social studies majors. If you don't show kids how to become prosperous, then you're basically putting them into slavery. Yes, I'll say that. If our parents grew up in it, my parents at least grew up in an era where you went to school, you got a job, you worked for 30 or 40 years, and then you retired. And then somehow over the last, 25 years, it became you went to school, you don't work, the government will give you anything, and then you get taken care of when you're old. They've missed an entire section of what you're supposed to be doing, is because Democrats don't want you prosperous. That's why I believe that we need a complete re-education. I think the first, as a sophomore, when you start charting where you want to go in life, you have that question, what is it you want to do? Which is a crazy question, because at 15, 16, you have no idea because you haven't done anything. I'd like to be, an influencer, which they all say right now. When I was telling Ashley this morning, when I was a sophomore in high school, they asked me, you go to the counselor, hey, what would you like to be? I'd like to be an engineer. My father was in the building, and I was like, hey, I want to do all that. And I went on that track. And I went on the track, and you take your calculus and all your math classes and chemistry and quantum physics and all, and then I just went, this is some boring stuff. I cannot see myself doing this for 30 or 40 years. And I would have a conversation with somebody right now, if I could go back to and talk to younger Barry. I'm like, don't look at doing something for 40 years. Look at doing something that's going to get you the most amount of income. And I would actually probably change that word and change that to revenue. Because what you're going to do is build revenue and then have that revenue work for you. So here's what you're going to do. From your time you're 19 or 20, you're going to focus on building revenue, not working a job. While Jimmy's at a job and he's going to be there 20, 25 years and he hopes to retire, you're going to take the next 5 years and learn about building revenue. Understand, I want you to become wealthy. How many people ever had that conversation with you? How many people ever said, hey, how you doing, Fred? Yeah. Let's talk about how we're going to make you wealthy. What do you mean? Forget this. I don't want those books. Those books aren't going to help you. I took calculus, I took quantum physics, and I don't use any of that stuff. Maybe I use algebra, but I don't use much calculus and stuff like that. I haven't used that in years and years and years. I found something, and I don't know, maybe it was the Will Rogers thing, is real estate. Why do you do it? Because they're not making any more of it. You've heard that saying, I hope. And it was like, they're not making any more of it. Like, so there's always going to be a demand. Yes. Interesting. Let's look into this. How do you build wealth? and I remember not surrounding myself, they brought me in. And I had a lot of people who made a lot of money who were willing to share what they did to get where they were. Why not that happen when you're in high school? Why isn't there some sort of symposium that you could go to instead of learning how to be an activist? That you would sit down with people like Peter Navarro and they would tell you, this is what you need to do to prosper. I doubt much is being taught in high school right now about prosperity and wealth building. Those are two like third rail subjects in high school. Prosperity, wealth building, what? Well, no, we need you to be a worker bee. We need you to plug in here. We need to put you in this slot so you're doing this for the next 25 or 30 years. My father did it. He owned his own construction company, but before that, he was into the, I got to do this, and then somebody came to him. Robin's brother. I remember the conversation clear as day. We were sitting at dinner one year, years ago, and he just said, I'm thinking about becoming a builder. I'm like, great, go for it. And that was the end of the conversation. He's like, really? Go for it. And I'm telling you, go for it. Don't let other people who ain't doing it telling you you can't do it. So that's the biggest mistake so many people have, is somebody tells you you can't do it, and these are people who have never done it. So you're asking the wrong people. So I want people to begin looking at what Howard Lutnick is saying. Learn what Peter Navarro is saying and take that down. So this next segment is something that Trump was talking about, and it's got people here freaked out and people otherwhere freaked out, and I'm seeing people making all kinds of money doing it. Check this out.
Trump announcing the creation of a strategic crypto reserve. Mackenzie Sagalos joins us now with all the details. Mackenzie, it's interesting because in this Truth Social post over the weekend, he cited his January executive order, and that seemed to ignite the rally.
No, it did. And this is really building upon what he said in January. He says that this new national crypto reserve will include Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a trio of high volatility tokens, Solana, XRP, and Cardano. He's calling it a move to elevate the industry after what the president described as years of corrupt attacks under the Biden administration. Now, unlike traditional reserves of gold, petroleum, or grain, commodities accumulated for strategic security, this reserve would more closely resemble an active portfolio of speculative assets. The shift in language from stockpile to reserve also suggests the U.S. may actively acquire and manage cryptocurrencies.
So don't answer this because I don't want you to feel embarrassed. Don't answer this question. How many of you are hearing what she's saying and seeing what's posted there and saying to yourself, what the hell are they talking about? A financial of strategic securities. What's a strategic security? What's a crypto reserve, and why would you stockpile crypto? And would the U.S. buy and manage crypto assets? Who would be doing that? That's what you have to ask yourself. Because if you don't know what that screen says right there and how it impacts you personally, that's what I mean. The young people need to be re-educated. They need to understand what that means, where the world is going. Again, that famous Wayne Gretzky quote, don't skate to where the puck is, skate to where the puck is going to be. So if I was a young man in high school right now, first of all, I wouldn't be watching Avengers and movies and some of the crap on TV. I'd be dialing into some stuff that I'm watching on CNBC and start to learn. I saw, and many of you guys follow, what's his name? Lou Valentine. And Lou Valentine put out a video, and he's like, man, I bought, I forget which one, at 128. And after Trump made this post on True Social, it went up to 178. So he increased his number that much by 50 basis points. And he's like, hey, don't, and his video today was like, don't listen to these people. Don't listen to them. And I loved it because you're seeing certain people who out there are telling you, yeah, I'm doing this and I'm building wealth. I'm embracing prosperity. I'm not afraid of it. It's something I think is devoid in our society right now.
Rather than just holding seized tokens. Now, the crypto market, coming off its worst month since 2022, reacted instantly. Bitcoin and Ethereum surged over 10%, while Cardano spiked as much as 70%. Now, prices are coming back down, but still, we're seeing investors getting back into long positions. And attention now really turns to Friday's first ever White House Crypto Summit, where the president, along with his crypto czar, David Sachs, regulators, and industry leaders will talk next steps. We'll be watching to see whether the president shares a buying strategy or plans to push this through without congressional approval. Well,
okay, so you now have some data, right? So let me just tell you, in the last 39 minutes, you've heard a few things. You heard Howard Lutnick talking about what he plans to try and push through. No tips on taxes, no taxes on tips, no tax on overtime, no taxes on Social Security. That's going to be a focus. You heard Peter Navarro talking about the 3 Ds. What was it? It was Doge, drilling, and deregulation. You saw earlier where they're going to get rid of the BOI, beneficial ownership information. And then a little bit, whenever he walks out here, you're going to hear about $100 billion plus investment following other huge billion-dollar investments. So instead of looking at this from the cheap seats and going, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. You now know, come Friday, there's a crypto summit. I've been talking on this show about crypto for a couple months. And some people have been digging in, and other people's like, I don't believe in crypto. It's right. Okay. Like I said earlier, if it's not for you, it's not for you. The rest of you, open your eyes wide. The man is foretelling where he's headed. It is March 3rd. He's been in office a little over a month, and you can already see where he's going. Remember, skating to where the puck is going, not to where it is. So, you saw HUD the other day getting rid of regulations. You see Ron DeSantis and other governors talking about getting rid of property taxes. You heard Buddy Carter on my show and Jade talk about reducing income taxes. Where do you think, as you're beginning to consume and digest all this information, where do you think the puck is headed? Because if you take all that in and say, oh, well, hey, there's a lot of financial stuff being thrown at me, more than I've seen in quite some time, and it's only 30 days plus in. When have you been able to consume and digest all this type of information? Almost on a daily basis. Well, there's a reason why it's being told to you, because the messaging is for people who are listening. Get ready. This thing's about to break loose. Depending on what niche you're in, I'm in the real estate niche. I dabble in crypto. There's a lot of people heavy in crypto who dabble in real estate. There's a lot of people who, a lot of people who decided, you know what, we're going to dabble in gold and silver. You now have the beginnings of a ton of opportunity that should, based upon what we're seeing, at least run for the next 4 years. And probably longer, because as people become more prosperous, they are not going to even want to hear what the Democrats are selling. If you listen to Bernie, if you listen to AOC, if you listen to these people, they keep telling you, you shouldn't be wealthy. You don't deserve to make money. The millionaires and billionaires. That's not going to work for people over the next 4 years or so if they're able to prosper. That's why they're doing all the crap with Ukraine. They're trying to hold this train back. Man, this horse is about to just go crazy. And if you're not seeing this and going, what can I do? Because everybody around, not everybody, but a lot of people around me are about to get on this rocket ship that Elon Musk and Howard Lutnick and Peter Navarro and Trump are putting together. A lot of people are about to get on this rocket ship, and you may not have a seat because you chose not to get one. Not because they tell you it's not available to you. You may be like, I don't like AI. Okay, if you don't like AI, you don't like AI. I'm not going to try and convince you. I don't like crypto. Find what you like. Find what people want. And then go where that puck is going.
Interesting that the notion of an active portfolio, Mackenzie, because then, of course, somebody needs to be hired to manage this. So basically, you've got a portfolio manager for crypto under the authority of the U.S. government.
And that's one of the biggest concerns here, that the government would be picking favorites. And yes, the choice of Cardano and Solana came as a bit of a surprise. But at the end of the day, these 5 tokens that are in this reserve are on the top 10 market cap list. And Cardano and Solana offer faster and cheaper alternatives than Bitcoin and Ethereum with respect to facilitating payments. The president also has a connection to both of those blockchains. Solana is the blockchain that he used to build his meme token. Meanwhile, you've got XRP, Ripple is the team behind.
Okay, so that Solana is, I think that's what Lou Valentino was talking about. His went in, and this is this morning, so I'm not sure when he made his video, but it's already up. But the term they keep using is long haul, long term. Not looking to go to a casino and make a whole bunch of money tomorrow. It's like, what are you going to do long term? How are you going to convert what you're doing into financial rewards and wealth and prosperity? You have to keep repeating those words because a lot of people aren't used to saying those words. A lot of people aren't used to associating those words with themselves because the Democrats have programmed you that it's bad. And so the deprogramming, I mean, you can see what I've you can see what I've written right there. America needs a re-education about being wealthy and prosperous. If those 2 words have not been a part of your vocabulary, if you have not woken up every single morning and said to yourself, how can I make money today? How can I do it? And if that even makes you like, oh, hey, I don't know about that. That makes, I'm a little like, that's what I mean, the re-education. Ashley and I have our morning talks about how we're going to do this business here and what we're doing. And this morning at 8:30, she calls and says, hey, can we talk? Yeah, let's dig into this. What are you looking at doing? Well, I now have been doing this Trump stuff for a year. I feel I've got enough historical data. I know what things are. I know what revenue. I know what the consistency is. I know what the plateau is. So in order for us to continue growing in 2025 and to see what happens in the next year of March, I need to build more content. I need to add more logs into the fire. I'm one person. I can only do so much before I just like get tired, so I need to find a way to get more content out there. Barry, how do you do that? Well, I'm going to have to hire a video editor. I need to have an editor who can cut down the live shows and make more content and get those out expeditiously. In addition to that, I want to build more towards having a network and having other shows. Like tomorrow is going to be a big test. What will happen if I go live for 12 hours? If I go live from 9 to 9, 1, will people watch? 2, do I have the resources here? Meaning, is the computer going to be okay? Do I have enough time? Do I have enough filler to go in between the interviews? So I'm not talking for 12 hours. I'm not doing a Jerry Lewis telethon. we're just going to do a show. What's the object behind it? Well, because then I can know what I need to do to help build a network. Long-winded way is I wake up, how are we going to generate more revenue? Every single day. Every single day. What am I going to do today to generate more revenue? Not income, revenue. Because, well, don't want to get into that mindset. But I just want to tell you, if nobody has said to you, do you think about building wealth and prosperity every single day? And don't give me the stuff about the love of money and all that, because that's only half the verse in the Bible. And you know, from between us giving away hoodies and giving away Bibles and everything we do here, I do more off screen. We go to church, we donate, so you save that stuff. I'm talking about building something. I'm older. I didn't have the opportunity of doing that when I was 15, 16, 17. And so I know I may not be here for a long time. Nothing wrong. I feel good. But what's Robin going to do? I don't want her to do anything. I want Robin to be able to go on vacation, do whatever she wants. I want Ashley and the kids to be able to do whatever they want. So I want that puck to be over here so that I can skate to it and say, when I get there, then I got to move that puck again. You see, that's only one time. Okay, it's over here, but now guess what? Now we need to be over here. And you have to keep updating. But the only way that happens is for you to accept that being wealthy and prosperous is, one, definitely okay. If you're not used to saying it, man, I want to be wealthy. I want to be wealthy. I want my family to be wealthy. If you're not comfortable saying that, that's the first problem. Because there's nothing wrong with, you can hear Trump before he was president. He was all about, let's build some wealth. Let me show you how to make money. Oh, well, he's been bankrupt 6 times. Good. Good. Because every time you fail, you learn what doesn't work. And so you don't have to do this again. Hey, let's open a casino. Oh boy, I can't do this. Didn't work. Don't do that again. Go back here and build another skyscraper. Whew. Okay, let me go ahead and open a restaurant. Oh, that didn't work. Let me go back over here and build another golf course because that didn't work. But you keep going. And you have to keep going because you have to build the wealth. You have to generate the revenue. And I'm saying it so much, I know. I haven't even looked over here at the chat yet. And I know some people are like, oh, I can't be wealthy. And then you'd have to ask people, why do you feel that way? Why do you feel like you can't be wealthy? Who has told you, wherever you are right now in your life, you topped out? That's it. That's it. And whoever's telling you that, or who has told you that, you shouldn't talk to them anymore. I'm serious. I do not want to talk to people who tell me what I can't do. I want to talk to people who tell me what I can do, and I may not be able to do it, but at least they said, hey, you're going to have to go there. You're going to have to do this. Well, that's too much. Okay, then don't do it. At least they told me what to do. See the difference there? I'm not saying that you're going to be able to do it, but they can tell you what to do. I can tell you right now down here in South Florida, if Ron DeSantis is able to get the municipalities and counties to do away with property tax, even if 1 or 2 counties do away with it, wait a minute, no taxes? Nope. No property taxes? Nope. So what would you do if you were in real estate in South Florida? What would you be looking at? Everything. Everything. But the liberal media is going to really harp on telling you what you can't do. Even here, I look up our newspaper and they're telling you, oh my God, the condo assessments are crazy and people are having to move because the condo assessments are too much. Instead of an article that says, hey, listen, condo assessments can go up, they can be rough. Here's what you do to make sure you're not stuck when the assessment hits for a new roof or new air conditioning. It's always doom and gloom. It's a new day now with President Trump.
They donated $5 million in the XRP token to Trump's inaugural fund. So he has ties to some of these tokens that we're seeing show up here.
The EB-5 program, which is gold green cards, $5 million that essentially gets you a pathway to citizenship. Explain, first of all, how that came to be.
So there's an EB-5 program that always had, if you invest in real estate or make a loan in America, you get a path to citizenship with a green card. And so the president had conversations over the weekend with his friend John Paulson, who came up and said, hey, why aren't we doing better with that? He called me, we talked about it, then I did work over the weekend on Monday, and on Tuesday at a press conference, the president comes out and gives the path, which says, imagine if we sell 1 million of them, that's $5 trillion, and that pays off our debt, drives down interest rates, and makes America amazing.
So one thing about the gold cards, and I found it very interesting, is of course the Democrats were bitching about it. In fact, there were some Republicans bitching about it. And I had, I talked to a few people, not here, but elsewhere, and I said, it's an idea. It may fall flat on its face, but it's an idea that on paper the math works. What are you doing to counter that? If you think your idea is better, say it. I've never heard a politician say that before. We're going to sell $5 million green cards to get you in here. Gold cards. What's your idea? Complain, bitch, whine? Why? Because you're not talking to the right people. He just told you how fast it happened. Hey, what do we do? Why don't we do this? All right, we'll do it. Is there anything legally wrong? No. So legal signed off, yeah. So the only thing stopping us from doing it is actually just doing it. Yes. All right, we're going to sell $5 million gold cards. And it happened that quick. He had an idea. He cleared it through legal. Talked to a couple of big hitters, and they're like, yeah, it'll work. There are people out there who would pay $5 million to just get in the country. And I couldn't believe that Democrats were complaining because they had no problem opening the gates for millions, tens of millions of people who can't even pay their own rent. Make that make sense. Tell me how you have a problem with somebody putting up $5 million to get in, and a promise of hiring at least 10 Americans, because they didn't talk about that. But you're okay with people crossing the river and swimming across the Rio Grande and then sliding under a fence and then heading to New York and getting gift cards and hotel rooms. That's okay. Make that make sense. Well, there's only one way to make sense. Wealthy is bad, prosperity is bad. If you have wealth and prosperity, you're not a Democrat voter per se. Because you saw a lot of wealth and prosperity on the stage at the Oscars yesterday. They're all rich. They all got money. They've, quote, made it. But they're telling you Democrats have the answer. When I've always said to you, there's people on stages everywhere who are so full of crap they can't even see straight. I know. I've done deals with some of these people. I'm like, I thought you were against making money. Yeah, you know that. Oh, no, I don't. Tell me. There's a case in point. There's an area in Fort Lauderdale. It's called the cis-drunk area. And for years, even black people didn't want to go into the cis-drunk area. It's like, wait a minute. No. Oh, no. And then somebody said, you know what? This is right near downtown. It is literally a half a mile outside of the city center. What if we bought up all this land and started building high-rises and retail and improved it? Somebody greenlit that, and it happened. And there was a rapper from South Florida. You would recognize the name. I ain't going to blow his cover right now. It's a rapper, very famous rapper. Millions of records, millions, platinum record. And met with him and his people, because they always got people. And he decides, hey, listen, I want to take down this whole area. I want to build this up, and here's what I'm going to do. And I can't tell you the business he put there because then you'd look at, oh, that's his. Well, he decided he's going to build a giant, amazing restaurant. And it's killing it right now. And he put it in what used to be the hood, but now a gentrified area. Because he understands building wealth and prosperity. And I can tell you that story over and over and over again. Same people that you hear fight the power. I'm gonna speak truth to power. Yo, man, you got any of that real estate? Yeah. You got any of that real estate near the water? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Talk to me. All the time. If you come down here and go down on the beach in Miami Beach, that's called South Beach. There's an area called South Beach. It's like rapper heaven. And there's some places where you can have a drink or a meal right by Ocean Boulevard. And I want you, if you ever come down, to do that and sit and count how many Bentleys go up and down the street cruising with some rapper. In Bentleys, Cybertrucks. But yet everyone tells you don't be wealthy and prosperous.
The coverage of it, Trump gold card to offer rich foreigners route to U.S. citizenship for $5 million. Trump says U.S. can pay off $36 trillion debt by selling wealthy immigrants $5 million gold card visas. And then Politico took another take. Trump, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people.
Okay, so those three, they want to say it's bad. But none of them said anything about the 20 million people that came in across the water that we had to take care of for the to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Make it make sense.
What do you say to people who say,
oh, come on.
Yeah, no, not about that. Are they going to be vetted, first of all?
Of course. Deeply vetted, and we said that from the first minute go. These are vetted people. These are going to be great global citizens who are going to bring entrepreneurial spirit, capacity, and growth to America. If one of them comes in, think of the jobs they're going to bring with them, the businesses they're going to bring with them, and they're going to pay American taxes as well. So this is huge money for America.
And how many people are waiting in this line currently?
So there are 250,000 people waiting in line now. If they're willing to pay the $5 million, that's over $1 trillion that comes to.
I don't recall a administration in my recent history that talked about being able to generate trillions of dollars of income, of revenue, the way these people do. Just matter of fact, hey, we'll do this. I'm waiting for this announcement here. I mean, he's about to announce $100 billion. Did you see those announcements when Biden was president? It is a shock to your system to see a president and his administration talking about numbers that they just don't even seem comprehensible. 100 billion, trillion, it's just crazy numbers. Wealth. If this conversation offends you or upsets you or makes you feel weird, it's not me. This is the guy you voted for. So why is your comfort level? I saw a couple of things here and people say, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable. Okay. What does that mean? Could you not feel more comfortable? Could your family not feel more comfortable? Your grandkids? Your great-grandkids? Could they not feel... Howard Lutnick here is probably worth, I don't know, maybe $1 billion himself. He's very comfortable. But when he was at, I don't know, $500 million, did he want to feel more comfortable? Of course he did. That's why he kept growing.
Directly to $1,250 billion just for that line. And I think these people are going to come enormous ways because they know they can come into America and they can be in the greatest country on earth.
You're kind of bullish when you talk about paying down the debt, and you said it again today in the cabinet meeting. You truly believe that with this program, with Doge, you can make this money all materialize and counteract a really skyrocketing deficit?
So if you go back to my Twitter feed, which I'm sure no one does, but October 14th, when I recruited Elon and came up with the name Doge, October 14th, we agreed to balance the budget. That he would take $1 trillion.
Did you know that? Did you know it was he who recruited Elon and said, Elon, you need to get in this. We're about to take this thing to a whole other level. See, a lot of people didn't realize that. I mean, I don't know if Brett realized it. Just let it fly by. Whew. Oh, wait. So you were the one who brought Elon in. Yes, it was me. That would have been a great question to ask, Brett. You missed it.
Expense out. Remember, we have just under $4 trillion of entitlements, but no one's ever gone through it. No one's ever looked at it. If I told you no one's ever looked at it, you've got to assume 25% is just mistakes, errors, and is wrong. That's $1 trillion a year. We do tariffs. We do the gold card. We drill, baby, drill, and we get rid of these tax scams that are all over the United States of America, and that'll produce $1 trillion in revenue, $1 trillion in cuts, and $1 trillion in revenue always balances this budget, and we're going to do it.
$1 trillion, here's that big number again, $1 trillion in cuts and $1 trillion in revenue. That's monstrous. So they say that President Trump has pushed his meeting to 2:15, and Melania may come on at any minute. So I don't know if they're going to be dueling or are they going to tell her to wait, but I'm seeing a picture of them being set up. So we're going to get one or two, hopefully not both at the same time. Hopefully they stagger them, and then we'll be able to see what exactly is happening with these different people. Okay, so let me take a few comments. Nancy P. has fantasies that doxing Trump tomorrow will do anything. No, it's not going to work. Thanks, Barry. I'm not doing crap tomorrow. I'm going to hang out all day with you. Oh, thank you very much. The gold cards are smart. The gold cards are extremely smart. Why would people have a problem with that? Let's see here. No matter what you choose besides fiat, holding cash is guaranteed to lose value. It's built in, and no interest will offset that. Good. Maybe we can give free homes to all combat veterans. Veterans should have just like a huge gold card. They should be able to do whatever they want. So I'm looking at this meeting. There's a couple Democrats in here as well. So I don't know which one's kicking off first. But as soon as it does, I will kick it over. Invest in eternal life. Yeah, we all do that as well, Ken. There's nothing wrong with that. What else we got here? Man, there's some people, nasty people in here. They need to worry about getting all the homeless off the street. Huge problem. You know that a lot of homeless are there because they choose to be. I know that pisses people off, but someone who used to have homeless housing has rules. You can't come in here and be drunk. You can't come here and be high, and whatever they have a problem, it's bad. You guys are still talking about the Bondi thing. Okay. I have to be healthy and wealthy and super prosperous, and I am determined. God help me. There you go. There you go. It's all about attitude. So we're going to take, it looks like we're going to take Melania first, and then we're going to come back and take President Trump. So let's listen to Melania. Let me put the volume on.
Well, welcome everybody. And I want to start by thanking the First Lady for joining us today. And thank you for your support of this incredibly important legislation, the Take It Down Act, which has already passed the Senate unanimously, and I am hopeful that the House will soon take it up and pass it and put it on the President's desk to be signed into law to protect young women and young boys and all of those who are being victimized across the country. I also want to thank our brave victims and victim advocates who are here. Elliston Berry, Francesca Mani, Brandon Guffey, and Breeze Liu. Thank you for being here. Each of you have endured the unspeakable, and your courage standing up and speaking for others is really remarkable. I also want to thank Stefan Turkheimer with RAIN for your advocacy and support on this issue as well. Thank you for your leadership. And of course, I want to thank Senator Klobuchar, who is the lead Democrat sponsor in the Senate, and Representative Salazar and Representative Dean, who are the lead sponsors in the House, who've worked alongside in this important bipartisan legislation. If you're a victim of revenge porn or AI-generated explicit imagery, your life changes forever. Most likely, you've been targeted by someone you know, and you're likely struggling to have that material removed from the internet. Disturbingly, many of these victims are teenagers at American high schools. Representative Dean, who are the lead sponsors in the House, who worked alongside in this important bipartisan legislation. If you're a victim of revenge porn or AI-generated explicit imagery, your life changes forever. Most likely, you've been targeted by someone you know, and you're likely struggling to have that material removed from the internet. Disturbingly, many of these victims are teenagers at American high schools who are facing a surge in AI-generated sexual images. Hundreds of teens, often targeted by their own classmates, are enduring senseless psychological harm, knowing that these fake images exist and they're still out there. And in many cases, there's no recourse for these teenage victims. But this issue extends beyond high school. There are thousands of cases where predators have used non-consensual intimate images to extort victims, both sexually and financially. And the results can be even more traumatic than financial loss, as we'll hear today. In dozens of instances, parents and siblings have suffered unbearable pain, having lost their child or their brother or their sister to suicide because the victim felt there was no way out from sextortion. Outside of high school, many adults are also dealing with the very real and dire consequences of having their sexually explicit images shared online without their consent. I have heard from victims of sexual abuse, of rape, of human trafficking, who strongly support the Take It Down Act because they desperately want some of the most traumatic moments of their lives taken off the internet. The Take It Down Act empowers victims across the entire United States. It makes it a felony for these deviants to publish any non-consensual intimate images, including fake, lifelike pornographic images of real people. Just as importantly, our bipartisan bill requires big tech to have a notice and takedown process so that every victimized American, not just the rich and famous, but everyone, has a right to get these disturbing images taken offline immediately. We are today one step closer to making this dream a reality. Just 3 weeks ago, the Senate unanimously passed the Take It Down Act. Now it goes to my House colleagues, and I have every assurance and confidence that the House will take this up, pass it, and put it on the president's desk so that we can protect the victims of these predators. And we're very excited to be joined today by the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump. Mrs. Trump has long been a champion for protecting our nation's children with her Be Best initiative. And I can think of no more important issue for our First Lady to lean on than protecting children online. Your success will mean our children's success and healing for thousands of victims. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump. Well.
Thank you so much, Senator Cruz.
I think that should be on.
Is on?
It's not very loud.
Good afternoon. I'm here with you today with a common goal: to protect our youth from online harm. The widespread presence of abusive behavior in the digital domain affects the daily lives of our children, families, and communities. Addressing this issue is essential for fostering a safe and supportive environment for our young people. I hope today's roundtable builds awareness of the harm caused by non-consensual intimate imagery, and eventually the approval of the Take It Down Act bill in Congress. In today's AI-driven world, the threat of privacy breaches is alarmingly high. As organizations harness the power of our data, the risk of unauthorized access and misuses of personal information escalates. We must prioritize robust security measures and uphold strict ethical standards to protect individual privacy. As First Lady, my commitment to the Be Best initiative underscores the importance of online safety. In an era where digital interactions are integral to daily life, it is imperative that we safeguard children from mean-spirited and hurtful online behavior. Ensuring their protection is not just a responsibility, but a vital step in nurturing tomorrow's leaders. Here with us today is Alison Berry, a 15-year-old brave young woman. Alison Spears used AI to create non-consensual intimate images of her and then spread the images across social media. They superimposed her face into pornographic content without her consent, solely to humiliate her. And authored, Alison's family contacted the social media companies for help. Their efforts fell upon deaf ears. Ultimately, the fake images circulated worldwide. It's heartbreaking to witness young teens, especially girls, grappling with the overwhelming challenges posed by malicious online content, like deepfakes. This toxic environment can be severely damaging. We must prioritize their well-being by equipping them with support and tools necessary to navigate this hostile digital landscape. Every young person deserves a safe online space to express themselves freely without the looming threat of exploitation or harm. To the brave survivors of NCII, your strength inspires the courage in others. To the advocates, your voices power our youth and hopefully bring change. And to the families, your unwavering love is a pillar of resilience. Thank you again to Senator Cruz, Speaker Johnson, House Majority Leader Scalise, Representative Salazar, Chairman Guthrie, Chairwoman McCain, Chairman Hare, and Representative Kahan for being here today and for your dedication to this important cause. I was heartened to learn that Senator Cruz and Senator Klobuchar united to prioritize this fundamental matter. I must admit, however, I expected to see more Democrats, leaders with us here today, to address this serious issue. Surely, as adults, we can prioritize Americans' children ahead of partisan politics. I urge Congress to prioritize the passage of the Take It Down Act bill. This legislation is essential for addressing the growing concerns related to online safety, protecting individual rights, and promoting a healthier digital environment. By advocating this bill, Congress can take an important step towards ensuring accountability and fostering responsibly online behavior. The Take It Down Act bill represents a powerful step toward justice, healing, and unity. Thank you.
And thank you very much. I want to thank the First Lady for being here, and your presence and your leadership on this issue is incredibly important, and I'm confident it's going to play a critical role in accelerating the passage of this bill and getting it passed into law so that we can protect all our kids and young women and young men across the country. I now want to turn to the leader in the House, Representative Salazar, for her remarks.
There. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to the First Lady of the United States, to Senator Cruz, for having taken up this cause. The force, as Senator said, the force of your presence, Madam, is not only going to save children's lives, but will also make this legislation the law of the land. I have no doubt that the House of Representatives will make this law a priority, as I have spoken to the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. So thank you for making our jobs as legislators a lot more effective. As the Senator said, the name of the legislation that we're presenting is called the Take It Down Act. Its mission is very simple. It's profound and long-lasting. It stops cyber abuse. It prevents bullying one child against another. Even more important, is going to prevent suicide out of shame. It is outrageously sick to use the images, the face, the voice, the likeness of a young, vulnerable female, to manipulate them, to extort them, to humiliate them publicly just for revenge or just for fun. That is why we created this bill, and it's going to stop the abuse throughout social media. It is widely known that 99% of the time, the victim, most of them girls, don't even know that their faces, their bodies, their intimate parts are being circulated around the internet in fake, compromising pornographic images. But perception is reality, unfortunately, and even though these images do not belong to them, they are paying the price dearly. So they see it, they live it, they have to suffer it, and they don't have any recourse, as the Senator said, up until today, up until now. Our bill, the Take It Down Act, finally is sending a very big message to big tech that they have to bring down these images, fake images, within 48 hours. No more time than that, no more excuses. If not, big tech then will be just as guilty as the aggressors. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok will have to comply within 48 hours when the victim demands that they take down those pornographic images. Now our messages to the bullies, to the perverts, to the predators. If you dare to do this to another innocent child, you are going to go to prison. You will serve jail time. That will be a great place where you can sit and ponder what you did and be consumed by your conscience. Up until now, the parents of victims found that the schools, they couldn't do anything. The police couldn't do anything. Nothing. Big tech couldn't do anything, according to them. No more. This legislation has taken the power away from the aggressors and the accomplices and have given it back to the victims and their parents. What a great honor for me to be part of this initiative. Thank you very much, and thank you, Madam, for making this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Salazar, for your friendship, for your leadership on this important issue. I now want to introduce our victim advocates who will share their stories and explain why it is important that we urgently pass the Take It Down Act. Here with us first are two teenage victims of AI-generated sexually exploitative images. Miss Elliston Berry of Aledo, Texas, and Miss Francesca Mani of Westfield, New Jersey. Both of these young ladies were victims of virtually the identical crime within weeks of each other. Elliston was just 14 years old when a male classmate of hers took an innocent photo off her Instagram page and used an app to create an explicit image, a deep fake AI, that in turn was sent to her classmates at school. Elliston helped inspire the Take It Down Act, and she's a Texan, and she and her mother contacted my office and relayed what happened, and we were horrified, and she was the initial inspiration for writing this bill. And Melania, I'll tell you an amazing aspect. When I was sitting down with Elliston and her mother, Anna, who's here as well, I asked in my office, I said, what's happened to the images? And they looked at me with enormous frustration, and they said, they're still up. It's been 9 months. Elliston's mom said she had called Snapchat, she'd emailed them, she tried repeatedly, take this garbage down of my daughter. And she had gotten no response at all, no movement. I turned to my staff in my office that afternoon and I said, I want you to get the CEO of Snapchat on the phone today. I want those pictures down today. Within 2 hours, they pulled them down. Now, it should not take a sitting senator or a sitting member of Congress picking up the phone to get a picture down or a video down. It should be the right of every American. Every teenage girl victimized should have the right to get this garbage taken down, and this bill will give them that right as a matter of federal law. And with that, Elliston, if you would share with the First Lady and share with everyone here just what happened to you just tell your story.
Thank you, Senator Ted Cruz. I was just 14 years old when a classmate created AI nudes of me from an innocent social media picture. I was 14 years old when I was violated all over social media, and I was just 14 years old when my innocence was stripped away. October 2nd, 2023, I woke up to messages from a friend notifying me that these photos of me were circulating social media. Pictures from a past Instagram photo with a nude body and my face attached, made from AI. Fear, shock, and disgust were just some of the many emotions I felt. I felt responsible and began to blame myself and was ashamed to tell my parents despite doing nothing wrong. As I attended school, I was scared of the reactions of someone could recreate these photos, and I lived in fear that they would resurface and that they would get brought up as I attended school. The school was little to no help and said that it was out of their control. I not only blamed the classmate Big Tech. The boy used a Google app called DNGG that existed to remove articles of clothing from a photo available for all ages for free. While that app is no longer available, thousands of other apps similar are available. Additionally, social media needs to be required to take action. It wasn't until Ted Cruz's office heard my story and reached out to Snapchat personally, and then my photos were removed. We need to hold Big Tech accountable to take action. I came here today to not only promote this bill, but to fight for the freedom of so many survivors. Millions of people, male, female, teenage, children, kids, all are affected by the rise of this image-based sexual abuse. This is unacceptable. The Take It Down Act will give a voice to the victims and provide justice. I want to say thank you to Senator Ted Cruz and his team. Thank you to all the advocates pushing this bill and this legislation. It is vital for the growing of technology. The situation is bigger than politics. This bipartisan bill is protect America's children. Thank you to the First Lady and the House leadership for understanding how important this issue is and taking time to learn about this vital piece of legislation. I share my story to give victims a voice they never heard and had changed this horrible situation into something good. Thank you to everyone who is supporting this. It is so inspiring to know that my voice is being heard, giving hope to not only me, but to all the many people that have been affected by this. It is truly so amazing how this awful situation has turned into good. Thank you.
So I'll tell you, Elliston and I and her mother several months ago had the opportunity to do a number of TV interviews, and we went on Good Morning America, and at the end of it, I think Good Morning America was ready to offer Elliston an anchor spot. I think the folks interviewing us got nervous for their jobs because thank you, both you and your mom have enormous courage, and you're standing up and speaking the truth, and it has a power to change and protect others. What is remarkable is in the exact same month that Elliston was being victimized, 2,000 miles away in New Jersey, Francesca Manni was going through the exact same situation. She was also 14. She was also a target of this same predation. And like Elliston, Francesca has spoken out about her experience. Both Francesca and Elliston testified at a field hearing that I held in Dallas. Francesca recently appeared on 60 Minutes to tell her story. And she's another incredible young woman, along with her mom, who are standing up and fighting to protect others. And so, Francesca, thank you for being here as well. And would you please tell us what you experienced?
Okay. Is it on? Yeah. Okay. At 14 years old, my classmates created deepfake images of me and other girls at my high school. The most disturbing part, not just that they thought it was okay, but that the school failed to hold them accountable. While the girls' names were announced over the intercom, the boys were quietly pulled from their classrooms, a blatant violation of privacy and disrespect towards us. Despite the seriousness of the incident, only one boy received a one-day suspension. 2 years later, those responsible are still in my school representing in team sports as if nothing ever happened. That is not okay. When I asked my school why they weren't using the code of conduct or HIB policies, their response, they need to be updated to include AI. My response was, then update it. It took them 1 year to make changes, yet my mom's lawyers created an updated version within a week of that incident. The HIB investigation, which was supposed to take 10 days, dragged on for almost a year, completely unacceptable. The school's only response to the community was a single email dismissing the issue as widespread misinformation. This silence sent a dangerous message. To the girls, you are not worth fighting for, and to the boys, what you did is okay. I expected clear and decisive action. The school should have said, this is not okay, and you are expelled. In school, the question should not be about legality alone. It should be about what is right, what is ethical. Teenagers might not know all the laws, but they do know when something is wrong. Schools need to take immediate, serious action to ensure that AI exploitation, harassment, and deepfake abuse are met with real consequences. We need laws, and with the help of Senator Cruz, Congresswoman Salazar, and now the involvement of you, the First Lady, I truly believe we are on track to passing a federal law to protect women and children. Even though AI exploitation can happen to anyone, 96% of victims of AI misuse are women and children. So we are seriously vulnerable, and we do need laws. The Department of Education must finally step up and issue clear AI guidelines on how schools should handle these incidents nationwide. AI isn't going anywhere. It's here to stay. Schools must be proactive, not just in teaching students how to protect their image or avoid committing a crime through AI misuse, but also in teaching how to use AI as a tool for advancement. Throughout my advocacy, I have met incredible organizations, leaders who are focused on legislation and regulation, but that's just one part of the conversation. Since being named one of Time 100's most influential people in AI, I've had the privilege of meeting brilliant minds using AI to advance society in research, medicine, education, climate control, art, and more. Yes, AI needs regulation, but we also need to acknowledge its potential and prepare the next generation through AI literacy programs in schools ASAP. I love JFK's speech, where he challenges us to ask what we can do for our country. Lately, feels like everyone is asking what the country can do for us. With AI, we should all be asking, what can I do by myself to advance and empower my future using AI? Now, let's be clear. Every aspect matters, but it must start with legislation. A strong federal law is crucial, one that shifts powers back to the victims, ensuring they can remove harmful images within 48 hours. That's not just policy, that's real tangible protection. That's take it down. We need this to pass. Thank you.
Francesca, thank you also for your courage and your strength and your clarity. Both you and Elliston are inspirational, and we're proud to have you with us today. As Francesca mentioned, over 90% of the victims of non-consensual intimate images are either women or young girls. It doesn't just affect teenagers. Adults can also be victimized. And Breeze Lou, when she was 24 years old, she got a nightmare phone call from her friend that an explicit video of hers had been posted on a pornography website. That phone call started a series of events in which Breeze would rise to lead the fight for the removal of these abusive images. Breeze, thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership. Tell us about what you experienced and what you've done to try to stop it.
Thank you. It is both humbling and empowering for me to be here today. On behalf of millions of survivors, I'd like to thank you for giving us a voice and shining a spotlight on this critical issue. We stand at a defining moment in human history. Artificial intelligence has given us unprecedented power and brought profound transformation. But with extraordinary technology advancement, we also face immense challenges. In April 2020, my life changed forever. A friend called to tell me that a video of me was circulating on Pornhub. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I have never even visited Pornhub, but when I clicked the link, I saw my face on a pornographic video. The devastation I felt is indescribable. I was humiliated, dehumanized, and overwhelmed with shame. But when I sought help, the system failed me. I was victim blamed and slut shamed while the perpetrator faced zero consequences. As more videos spread to hundreds of malicious websites, I nearly lost everything. My dignity, my reputation, and I almost lost my life. For every victim, there is a moment when the ground disappears beneath you, when the shame, the violation, the loss of control, it all consumes you. And then when you reach for help, you find there is none. No accountability, no recourse, just a system that shrugs and says it's too complicated, it's impossible to fix, the internet is too big. But America is a nation that does not accept impossible. In 1969, an American set his foot on the moon and said, that is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. This nation did something that was once believed to be impossible. With computing power equivalent to a basic calculator, we accomplished one of the greatest feats in human history. When it comes to ending online violence, America must lead. The Take It Down Act is an essential first step. It creates accountability where there was none before. It ensures that victims can have harmful content removed swiftly, lifting the unbearable burden survivors have long carried alone. If legislation is the foundation, technology is the bridge. History will not remember us for the tools we build. It will remember us for how we choose to wield it. The internet, AI, the digital tools are not inherently good or evil. They reflect the values of those who control them. This is a tech-enabled problem, and it requires a tech-enabled solution. The same technology that created this issue can also power its solution, and this is why we find hope. And this is what my work at Electo AI is about, building human-centered AI to combat AI abuse. To those who say this problem is too big, I say this: America is not in the habit of backing down from hard fights. Today, the smartphone in our pocket holds computing power thousands of times greater than what NASA used during the Apollo program. We have the technology to fix this. We have the legislation to create accountability. Now we need the will to act. This is a nation that has always led the world in shaping the future, not waiting for someone else to do it first. The future is being decided now. So let us rise to this challenge, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. It is time to reclaim our humanity in a digital age. Let history show that when faced with injustice, we did not stand idly by. We fought, we built, we progressed, and we won. Pass this bill. Take action. Let us build a digital future that is safe, just, and worthy of the generations to come. Do not let my yesterday become their tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.
Breeze, thank you very much for your courage and your clarity What you experienced and Elliston experienced and Francesca experienced was a grotesque violation of your privacy and your fundamental rights. And each of you has used that pain to advocate for others and to try to stop someone else from being victimized the way you have been. Although the vast majority of the targets of this abuse are women and young girls, young boys can be targeted as well. And the FBI has warned that there's a growing threat of sextortion deliberately targeting minors online, where evil people use either real or fake explicit images to extort their victims both sexually and financially. And in some instances, the results can be even more devastating and catastrophic. And that was the tragic situation that South Carolina State Representative Brandon Guffey and his family experienced in 2022. Representative Guffey, would you please share what happened with your son?
Thank you, Senator Cruz. July 27th, 2022, I lost my oldest son, Gavin Guffey, to suicide. We quickly found out that he was being extorted online, that someone pretending to be a young female at another college requested images to be shared back and forth, and as soon as he shared those images, he took his life. It was an hour and 40 minutes from the time that he was contacted until the time that he took his life. At that time, I had never heard of the crime of sextortion. I was always a more liberty-minded politician, even though I hate to say that word. And, I wanted freedom as much as possible. But as I started looking into this, I started to see that big tech operates, and they are the equivalent of big tobacco of today's generation. The account that targeted my son, that caused him to take his life, was taken down online once Homeland Security reached out. However, they left the additional accounts up. If I send a friend request, I can choose remove this account and any other accounts associated. Yet they left these other accounts up, and those other accounts began to extort my 14-year-old cousin, my 16-year-old son who had just lost his brother, and myself as well, going as far as sending a message saying, "Did I tell you that your son begged for his life?" From that day forward, I have made...
Taiwan Semiconductor is announcing that they will be investing at least $100 billion in new capital in the United States over the next short period of time to build state-of-the-art semiconductor manufacturing facilities. I think mostly it's going to be in Arizona, which is what I understand, which is a great state. I like it because I won it, but I won most of them, actually. But we won it, and we won it big. The most powerful AI chips in the world will be made right here in America, and it'll be a big percentage of the chips made by his company. But as you know, they're based mostly in Taiwan, and they're far and away the biggest. There's nobody even close. This $100 billion in new investment will go into building 5 cutting-edge fabrication facilities in the great state that we just discussed, Arizona, and will create thousands of jobs, many thousands of jobs, and they're high-paying jobs. In total, today's announcement brings Taiwan Semiconductor investments to about $165 billion they've started already. Among the largest new foreign direct investments in the United States, Apple, as you know, made a big announcement last week of $500 billion, and we have some others that have announced. We have many that want to announce, but I don't have time to do all of these announcements, I tell you. But for you, I'm doing the announcement.
Thank you.
This will create hundreds of billions of dollars in economic activity and boost America's dominance in artificial intelligence and beyond. Semiconductors are the backbone of the 21st century economy, and really, without the semiconductors, there is no economy. Powering everything from AI to automobiles to advanced manufacturing, and we must be able to build the chips and semiconductors that we $500 billion, and we have some others that have announced. We have many that want to announce, but I don't have time to do all of these announcements, I tell you. But for you, I'm doing the announcement.
Thank you.
This will create hundreds of billions of dollars in economic activity and boost America's dominance in artificial intelligence and beyond. Semiconductors are the backbone of the 21st century economy, and really, without the semiconductors, there is no economy. Powering everything from AI to automobiles to advanced manufacturing, and we must be able to build the chips and semiconductors that we need right here in American factories with American skill and American labor. And that's exactly what we're doing. As you know, Taiwan pretty much has a monopoly on that market. And I think pretty much is not a term that's even appropriate. They do have a monopoly. And this is a tremendous move by the most powerful company in the world. It's a matter of economic security. It's also a matter of national security for us. And at the same time, Mr. Wei will be able to diversify and have his a tremendous presence in another place, and a very safe place. And I want to thank Taiwan Semiconductor for doing the announcement. And I'd like to ask Mr. Wei to say a few words, if you might. And I'd also like to ask Howard and David, you can say a couple of words, but maybe you should go first, because right now he's the most important man in the room. I'm sorry, fellas. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great
Mr.
honor.
President.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit nervous, so I have to pull out my piece of paper. Mr. President, Secretary Larney, and David, I didn't know that your title, but okay. First, I want to say thank you to Mr. President to give me this opportunity to announce our big project in the U.S. TSMC is the world's largest chip manufacturing, funded by Dr. Morris Chang in 1987. It's now at the forefront of semiconductor technology, supporting AI advancement and industry growth. In fact, I would like to wind back the time that in 2020, we have to thank President Trump's vision and his support. So TSMC start the journey of establishing the advanced chip manufacturing in Arizona. And now, let me proudly say, now the vision become reality. In Phoenix, Arizona, with 3,000 employees, we are producing the most advanced chip made on U.S. soil. With the success of our first fab, so we are now very happy to announce we are going to invest additional $100 billion US in addition to our current $65 billion US investment in Arizona. We are going to build 3 more new fabs after we promised 3 fabs already, and another 2 very advanced packaging fab, and most important, R&D center also in Arizona. For this, all the investment, $165 billion, is going to create thousands of high-paid jobs, as the president just announced. And we are, most important, actually, we are going to produce many AI chips. We are going to produce many chips to support the AI progress and to support the smartphones progress. And again, with that, I want to thank President Trump again for his support. In addition, I also want to thank my customers in the U.S., such as Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm, Broadcom. They all support TSMC's manufacturing in the U.S. Without their support, we probably cannot make it through. So again, I want to thank them. Also, I'd like to thank the TSMC's employee Without their effort, we just cannot make it today. That's all I want to say, and thank you.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you, President. Howard, please, David. Sure. Thank you.
So I'm thrilled to be here today because President Trump has made it a fundamental objective to bring semiconductor chip manufacturing home to America. Under the Biden administration, TSMC received a $6 billion grant, and that encouraged them to build $65 billion. So America gave TSMC 10% of the money to build here. And now you're seeing the power of Donald Trump's presidency because TSMC, the greatest manufacturer of chips in the world, is coming to America with a $100 billion investment. And of course, that is backed by the fact that they can come here because they can avoid paying tariffs. So the idea is come to America, build greatness in America, build for the American customers, the Apple, NVIDIA, that whole list that Chairman Wei gave in order to bring production to America. So we're really, really excited. This continues the most incredible path you've ever seen in these first weeks and months of the Trump administration of incredible manufacturing coming to America. The keys that the president has called out are coming here. They're coming here in huge size because they want to be in the greatest market in the world, and they want to avoid the tariffs that if they're not here, they'd have to suffer. So I want to congratulate CC Wei for bringing in this incredible $100 billion investment, but it's on the shoulders of our President Donald Trump, which is why he's coming. So thank you.
Thank you. David?
Thank you, sir. Well, the products that TSMC makes are literally the most important products in the world. I mean, these advanced chips power everything. They power AI, they power your phone, they power your cars. And without them, the whole modern economy would stop, but they're not made in the United States. So for TSMC to move here is a huge, huge development. And we owe that to President Trump's leadership on the economy and Secretary Lutnick as well. And Cece, thank you for coming here. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, David. So thank you very much. A big percentage of chips with this investment will be made now, a big percentage. Worldwide, we had very little, almost none. We used to have a lot with Intel, but we had very little. And we'll be at close to 40% of the market with this transaction and a couple of others that we're doing. That's a tremendous leap, like a leap that nobody would have really said was possible. So I just want to thank you all for being here. If you want a couple of questions, ideally on this subject, yes. Please.
Number of jobs that will be created. He said
you're probably talking about 25,000 jobs, but it'll get bigger and bigger with time. Knowing this gentleman, it'll get bigger and bigger. There'll be no stopping him. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
In addition to the job, you talked about national security, and that's one thing I think a lot of Americans don't understand. Explain the national security aspect of this.
Well, without the chips and semiconductors, nothing runs today. You can't buy a car without them. You can't get a radio, a television, you can't get anything. And we thought it was very important, obviously business-wise, but we thought even in terms of national security to have this large percentage of the chips, semiconductors, and other things that they make, the most important product, and not a product that you can really copy. It takes years and years. You know, on the needle of a pin is total genius. I mean, they can put things, something the size of the needle, the point of a pin, they put information that is just not even believable. So if you would see this, it's just really something. Yes, Brian?
One aspect to that. Honda announced they're coming to Indiana because of the tariffs. Once again,
that's right.
Bringing additional jobs in manufacturing. You want to comment on that as well?
Well, Honda's coming, and I told you about Apple that they're going to be starting to build massively here, $500 billion. And we have many other companies going to be announced, but we had many that have already announced. And no, it's going to be great. It's looking really strong. I don't think this country has ever seen anything like we're seeing right now. Now, the tariffs, as you know, will start a week earlier than the reciprocal, which is going to be on a couple of weeks earlier. Reciprocal tariffs start on April 2nd. And I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to go April Fool's Day, because that costs a lot of money, but that one day. But so we're going April 2nd. But very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs. In other words, you build, and this is exactly what Mr. Wei is doing, by building here. Otherwise, they'll build, if they did them in Taiwan to send them here, they'll have 25% or 30% or 50% or whatever the number may be someday. It'll go only up. But by doing it here, he has no tariff, so he's way ahead of the game. And I would just say this to people in Canada or Mexico: if they're going to build car plants, the people that are doing them are much better off building here, because we have the market. We're the market where they sell the most. And so I think it's going to be very exciting for the automobile companies, very exciting for, I can think of any, as an example, North Carolina, they had the grid. I used to go there to buy furniture for hotels, and it's been wiped out. That business all went to other countries. And now it's all going to come back into North Carolina, the furniture manufacturing business, please.
Is the Ukraine minerals deal now dead, or can it be revived?
Well, I'll let you know. We're making a speech. You probably heard about it tomorrow night, so I'll let you know tomorrow night. But no, I don't think so. I think it's a great deal for us because, Biden very, very foolishly, stupidly, frankly, gave $300 billion and $350 billion more accurately to a country to fight and to try and do things. And you know what happened? We get nothing. Just gave it. We could have rebuilt our entire U.S. Navy with $350 billion. Think of it, $350 billion. We could have rebuilt our U.S. Navy. So he gave it away as fast as the money could be gone. And what we're doing is getting that all back, and a lot more than that. And we need, it's very important for this business that we're talking about here with chips and semiconductors and everything else. We need rare earths. And the deal we have is we have the finest rare earths that you can.
Sir, on Ukraine. What do you need to see from President Zelensky to restart these negotiations?
Well, I just think he should be more appreciative, because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us, because, as you know, that's right there. That's the border. This country really was like the fence on the border. It was very important to Europe, and I'm not knocking Europe. I'm saying that they were a lot smarter than Joe Biden, because Joe Biden didn't have a clue. He just gave money hand over fist, and they should have been able to equalize with us. In other words, if we gave $1, they should have given. Well, we gave $350 billion. They probably gave $100, but on top of it all, they get their money back because they're doing it in the form of a loan, and it's a secured loan. So when I saw that, which I've known about for a little while, I said it's time for us to be smart. At the same time, it's great for them because they get us in the country taking the rare earth, which is going to fuel this big engine, and especially the engine that we've in a very short time created, and we get something, and we're there. We have a presence there. With all of that being said, I want one thing to happen. I want all of those young people to stop being killed. They're being killed by the thousands every single week. Last week, 2,700 were killed. 2,700 young, in this case, just about all young boys from Ukraine and from Russia. And that's not young people from the United States, but it's on a human basis. I want to see it stop. The money is one thing, but the death. And they're losing thousands of soldiers a week. And that's not including the people that get killed every time a town goes down or a missile goes into a town. And I want to see it stop. Yes.
Are you considering canceling military aid to Ukraine? And can we get a reaction to what the Prime Minister said, that your administration is bringing U.S. worldview in alignment with Moscow's?
So this is a deal that should have never happened. This is a deal that would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. It didn't happen. It was never even close to happening. If I were president, it would not have happened. And October 7th would not have happened in Israel. and inflation wouldn't have happened. And Afghanistan, disastrous, the way they withdrew. Not the fact that they withdrew, but the way they withdrew would have never happened. And we would have had Bagram right now instead of China having it. It was 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear weapons. We would have kept Bagram with one of the biggest air bases in the world. All of these things happened, and it's a shame. But it is what it is, and now we're here. I want to see it end fast. I don't want to see this go on for years and years. Now, President Zelensky supposedly made a statement today in AP. I'm not a big fan of AP, so maybe it was an incorrect statement, but he said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying.
This project, could this minimize the impact to the U.S. with chips should China decide to isolate Taiwan or China decide to take Taiwan?
Well, it's a very interesting point. It's a great question, actually, but this would certainly, I can't say minimize. That would be a catastrophic event, obviously, but it will at least give us a position where we have, in this very, very important business, we would have a very big part of it in the United States. So it would have a big impact if something should happen with Taiwan.
Are you looking at relieving Russian sanctions if there is a peace deal?
Well, we're going to make deals with everybody to get this war, including Europe and European nations. And they've acted very well. You know, they're good people. I know most of them are friends of mine. The heads of state, the heads of the various countries, prime ministers from the different. I got four prime ministers and 5 presidents called me over the last 2 days, and they want to work it out. They want to get it worked out. And I think they're also, you know, they're talking money, but the money is less important than the deaths. We're talking thousands of young people a week. And people would say, why do I care about Ukraine, young people? Why do I care about, and not all young, but they're pretty young. You know, Ukraine is running a little bit low, and they're getting older. They're recruiting older people. It's a very, very sad thing that's happening over there, and we want to get it finished. We want to stop the death.
On the tariffs, is there any room left for Canada and Mexico to make a deal before midnight? And should we expect those Chinese tariffs, the extra 10%, to take
No room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, you know, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow.
Mr. President, just to follow up on my colleague's question.
And just so you understand, vast amounts of fentanyl have poured into our country from Mexico. And as you know, also from China.
You can continue to watch this on our website, cspan.org. We're going to leave this here to keep our over 40
minutes later, right? But that's what's good about his business. That's why he's the only one that's successful in it. But
To follow up my colleague's question, from Russia saying that your foreign policy is largely in line with their vision, should that be concerning to Americans?
said what?
Should that be concerning to Americans?
Read the statement.
That Russia says that your administration's foreign policy is, quote, largely in line with their vision.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it takes two to tango, and you're going to have to make a deal with Russia, and you're going to have to make a deal with Ukraine. You're going to have the assent, and you're going to have the consent from the European nations, because I think that's important, and from us. I think everybody has to get into a room, so to speak, and we have to make a deal. And the deal can be made very fast. It should not be that hard a deal to make. It could be made very fast. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal. And if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long, because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal. I believe certainly the people of Ukraine want to make a deal. They've suffered more than anybody else. We talk about suffering. They've suffered. But if you think about it, under President Bush, they got Georgia, right? Russia got Georgia. Under President Obama, they got a nice big success. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal. And if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long, because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal. I believe certainly the people of Ukraine want to make a deal. They've suffered more than anybody else. We talk about suffering. They've suffered. But if you think about it, under President Bush, they got Georgia, right? Russia got Georgia. Under President Obama, they got a nice big submarine base, a nice big chunk of land where they have their submarines. You know that, right? Crimea. Under President Trump, they got nothing. And under President Biden, they tried to get the whole thing. They tried to get the whole big Ukraine, the whole thing. If I didn't get in here, they would have gotten the whole thing. So I can only say you can go back to Bush, you can go back to Obama, and go back to Biden. They took a lot. The only one they didn't get, you know what I gave them? I gave them anti-tank missiles. That's what I gave them. I gave them sanctions on Russia. I gave them javelins. You know the javelins? You know when they took out all those tanks? You know the tanks were heading to Kiev by the hundreds, and they were unstoppable. And I gave them javelins. So, you know, I really, Putin is the one that will tell you this has not been so good for them. The fact is that I just want fairness. I want fairness. But think of it. I gave Russia nothing except grief. I gave them nothing. I gave them sanctions and javelins. That's what I gave them. Obama gave them sheets, and you heard that statement before. It's a very famous. Trump gave them javelins, and Obama gave them sheets, and then they say how close I am to Russia. And let me tell you, we have to make a deal because there are a lot of people being killed that shouldn't be killed. But remember, Trump gave them nothing, and the other presidents gave them a lot. They gave them everything.
Mr. President, on trade, you met with Argentine President Javier Milei at CPAC. He wants to sign a free trade agreement with the United States. Is that something that you would consider even with Argentina?
I'll consider anything. And Argentina, I think he's great, by the way. I think he's a great leader. He's doing a great job. He's doing a fantastic job. Brought it back from oblivion. Yeah, we'll look at things. We're looking at the UK with things. It doesn't have to be tariffs, but tariffs are easy. They're fast. They're efficient. And they bring fairness. For instance, when people kill their dollar, their equivalent of the dollar, whether it's the yuan or the yen in Japan or the yuan in China, when they drop them down, that puts us at a very unfair disadvantage. So all I have to do is say, Howard, we're going to have to raise the tariffs a little bit because I've called President Xi, I've called the leaders of Japan to say you can't continue to reduce and break down your currency. You can't do it because it's unfair to us. It's very hard for us to make tractors, Caterpillar, here when Japan, China, and other places are killing their currency, meaning driving it down. So all of these things add up. And the way you solve it very easily is with tariffs, because when they do that, instead of having to make phone calls every day like I used to do with certain leaders, President Xi a little bit, a lot of phone calls, talking about the fact that they're lowering their yuan, they're lowering it down, and that makes it very, very hard for us. So this way I just say, look, let them do that, and we make up for it with the tariffs. But
will you be speaking with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum about?
Yeah, sure, I will. I have a lot of respect for her.
Mr. President, tariff takes effect. It'll be 20% on China now. How high are you willing to go against China?
Well, I can't say. It depends on what they do with their currency. It depends on what they do in terms of a retaliation with some kind of an economic retaliation, which I don't think they're going to retaliate too much. Hey, look, the United States has been taken advantage of for 40 years. The United States has been a laughingstock for years and years. That's why this gentleman is built in Taiwan instead of building here. It would have been better if he built here. If we had a president that knew what they were doing, and we had a lot of them very bad on trade. Look, I'm a huge fan of Ronald Reagan, but he was bad on trade, very bad on trade. He allowed a lot of people, a lot of businesses to be taken. So I say that with due respect because he was so great on other things, but he was bad on trade. We are setting records right now, records like nobody has ever seen before. When you have companies like this coming in and almost 40% of their company in one signature is going to be devoted to what he does, which is one of the most important businesses in the world. That's an unbelievable thing. When Apple now is going to start building all of their plants here, all because of what we've done in terms of, it's not because he likes me or they like me. They don't probably like me at all. I don't know. I think he likes me a little bit at least. But you know what? It's the incentive we created or the negative incentive. I mean, it's going to be very costly for people to take advantage of this country. They can't come in and steal our money and steal our jobs and take our factories and take our businesses and expect not to be punished. And they're being punished by tariffs. It's a very powerful weapon that politicians haven't used because they were either dishonest, stupid, or paid off in some other form. And now we're using them. Say it.
Have you spoken with President Xi about this?
I don't want to tell you that. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Running for New York City mayor.
Will people who don't respond to the emails be fired?
Okay. All right. So, got a whole lot going on. So, I've got the thing with Melania queued up. We can go back to that if you want me to. Amazing press conference. But I got some breaking news to tell you. It's amazing. While he's talking, they're dropping news. Huge news. Huge. All right. So first of all, this one I think is going to cause reverberations all throughout Washington. Huge. President Trump, the U.S. is preparing to ease sanctions on Russia as President Trump pushes to restore ties and end the war in Ukraine. Okay, let that sink in real quick as you're looking at that. He's going to remove sanctions. Okay, let me just fix this real quick here. He's going to remove sanctions from Russia. What do you think the Democrats... Oh, I can tell you. You probably already know. They're going to call Putin's puppet. Oh, my God. Everything they possibly can at this point. Because the next thing I want to show you, which is probably even bigger... Okay. As I just struggle to get this in the right spot. Hold on. Wait 1 second. I'm sorry I have to do this. It kind of drives me crazy because if I don't do it, I might... Okay. That's good enough for now. All right. So he's gonna release the sanctions on Russia. That's big. That's huge. That's breaking. That's large, huge news. Then you're gonna have to go ahead and couple it with this. Trump has halted new weapon sales to Ukraine and is also considering freezing the shipments from U.S. stockpiles. So Zelensky at this point is absolutely screwed. No more money, no more new stuff, and you may not even get, the old stuff. This is what Nick Sorter had to say. Braiding President Trump has halted all weapon sales to Ukraine and is considering freezing weapon shipments from U.S. stockpiles. The U.S. will also no longer finance any purchases from Ukraine. If Zelensky wants an endless war, he'll have to pay for it himself. We're out. I want to draw your attention to this right here. All right? So, when it says he's considering freezing weapon shipments from here, what that is letting Zelensky, you got a really small window. You want to get this done? Because if you don't, I'm going to close that off too. So we're not selling you any stuff. We're not financing anything. But if you want everything shut down, it's about to close on you. It's about to close. And so what you're going to... And I love the timing of this. This is happening right before he goes to the State of the Union / joint address to Congress tomorrow. That is monstrous. I mean, absolutely monstrous. Letting the people know, I'm going to cut a deal with Russia and I'm shutting off Ukraine. And so you immediately know what's about to happen. What's about to happen is the media and all the Democrats, the same thing, are going to be screaming about him being Putin's puppet. And I personally, again, I don't have any skin in this game in terms of regards to Putin puppet and all this stuff. I always wondered why we wouldn't do a deal with Russia. We're doing a deal with China. Why wouldn't you want to do a deal with Russia? He hasn't done anything to us. So the idea behind doing a deal with the minerals in Russia, well, if you're doing business with an adversary, that's probably going to keep that adversary in check. Why are we doing business with Ukraine? It doesn't make any sense. Or if you do Ukraine, also do it with Russia. Who knows? But they're not going to like it at all. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. So he also mentioned something else that happened this morning that I want to bring to your attention. Let's talk about this really quick. because this is huge. The next Honda Civic will be built in America thanks to Trump's tariffs. And so Honda has announced it will make its next generation Civic hybrid in Indiana instead of Mexico to dodge planned U.S. tariffs on foreign imports, which start tomorrow. Right, and notice he said they have no room. So Mexico and Canada, you cooked your goose. Reuters, citing 3 people familiar with the matter, report that Honda had planned to make to China in Guanajuato, Mexico. Honda opened a plant in Guanajuato in 2014, which can produce 200,000 units per year. The new Civic was set to be made in Mexico beginning in November 2027 because of the rising costs in Indiana and Canada, where it also has plants. One of the people told Reuters, now Japan's second biggest car maker, wants to build it in India, where it currently makes the Civic sedan, the Civic CR-V, and the SUV Insight hybrid sedans. The company plans to make about 210,000 Civics each year, although Honda would look to import from countries not affected by tariffs, and on and on and on. So all these people who are complaining that the Trump tariffs, they don't work. Well, you just heard one guy, hey, I'm putting 150 billion in here, and we're gonna make a whole bunch of money, and Honda's coming in, and more people are gonna come in. Like he said, I'm fielding so many deals, I don't even have time to tell you all. That a tariff absolutely works. No one wants to lose 20, 25, 30% of the value of their product because their people are going to have to pay more. So an American that wants to buy a Civic would have to pay 20%, 25% on top of a tariff on top of everything, which would make other car makers more money because I'm not going to pay it. So Honda's in. I started this show by telling you guys to understand 2 words. Wealth and prosperity not being bad words. Understanding for yourself that making money, promulgating wealth, and showing your family how to make wealth and be prosperous is not a bad thing. That's a Democrat talking point. You're going to hear it. Trust me. It's 3:15 right now, and over the next probably 24 to 48 hours, including after what gets said in tomorrow's speech, you're going to hear them actually come out and say it's not good, and he's not taking care, and he's not doing this and everything else because they abhor, they hate prosperity and wealth. President Trump's, he's providing the opportunity right now. You're seeing these people, 150 billion, 100 billion, 210,000 cars. These are huge numbers. Now, it was very interesting. We were watching Melania's event, and then we were watching this event with Trump, and both events, one horrific, one fantastic, centered around one thing. And that one thing is what's going to change the world, and it all depends upon whose hands it falls in. You have AI that can make horrific deep fake videos and cause all kinds of pain, and we're going to hear this man talk about his son that committed suicide. And on this side, the same tool, AI, is going to give America extreme wealth and prosperity. Same thing. One really bad, one really good. So when people, especially I've heard in the chat here, like, hey man, AI is bad. No, AI is not bad. What you do with the AI is bad. It's like owning a robot. If you have a robot that is good, that's one thing. If you have a robot that's bad, it's horrible. It's crazy. It was Russian ships that blocked the British ships from destroying the new America. We have been gone before we even got started. Yeah, we're just going to have to run the show on our own. So be it, huh? Yeah, exactly. You guys go ahead and do your war over there. We're going to make money. So before we get too far, give me a second. I'm going to look over my shoulder here, and what I'll do is get the second part of the Melania event put up and queued up, and we get going on that. Hopefully we'll have it without any issue. Give me a second. And as you're seeing all this, the crypto, the AI, everything that President Trump is doing is to generate prosperity for America, to make wealth. And I'll keep saying it because I want you guys to really embrace those two words, because nobody wants to tell Americans it's okay to be wealthy and prosperous. However you define wealthy and prosperous. It's okay. I encourage you. Do whatever you can to take advantage of all this stuff. Well, Barry, I don't know what to do to take care of this. Well, if Honda's going to build 210,000 cars in Indiana, well, that's 200, who knows how many thousands of jobs are going to be there. And those people are going to need everything from haircuts to auto supply and you name it. They're going to need everything. Now, if you're not in Indiana, that doesn't really do anything for you, but you could put up a website. You could sell stuff online. I'm just saying, do this. Just begin thinking. How can I get a part of this prosperity? What do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to help me get there? That's what this whole show is about today. It's about making dollars. That and the fact of understanding the tools that are out there, AI and different things, are not necessarily bad. And of course, as I've been doing, you can do as well in terms of look at what you can do with gold and silver. The market is going to fluctuate right now because there's so many things hitting the market. Are we going to war? Is war going to stay over there? Are they going to have to transfer money here? And Trump's building the economy with so much going on. But the safety, the hedge that you can have is with gold. So listen to this. As you know, President Trump has assembled the Avengers to make America great again. And of course, we're all excited and ready to see them get to work. But with everything we're seeing right now, don't take your eye off the ball. Things could get much worse before they get better. With the possibility of World War III still looming, and with the Democrats doing everything they can to impede Trump, you still need to keep your guard up and your money protected. Oh, and our national debt is still massively increasing. Don't get me wrong, I have high hopes for Trump's America, but I also have a family to look out for. You see, Trump and the Avengers have quite the uphill battle ahead. That's why I'm making sure I'm protected, and I'm recommending that you do the same. One way to be protected is by diversifying your portfolio. That's why on this channel I've been happy to partner with Lear Capital. As you know, I've been involved in real estate for quite some time. And although I dabbled in gold and silver, Kevin and his staff at Lear have helped to educate me even further, especially in regards to silver. Give Lear a call today and they'll show you how easy it is to move some of your savings or your retirement account into gold and silver. Gold and silver have been proven to hold value and protect wealth for the long term. Call Lear today at 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com to get your free gold and silver wealth protection guides. There's no obligation, just free information. Many of you have seen my interviews with Lear founder Kevin Demerit, and I can tell you this company is solid and likes to educate their customers. Just so you know, Lear has over 27 years of experience, thousands of 5-star reviews, and over $3 billion in trusted transactions, and is the only company with a 24-hour risk-free purchase. You don't pay unless you're 100% satisfied. So call 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com. And when you call, don't forget to ask how you can get up to $15,000 in bonus gold or silver with a qualifying purchase. So if you'd like to take advantage of this opportunity, please call my friends at Lear Capital at 800-601-5430 and tell them Barry sent you. All right, so I want to go ahead and pick up where we left off with the video of Melania's event, which I have queued up here. I think you guys might want to see that. Let's go ahead. Give me a second to start it. And all right, this is the gentleman who lost his son. He was telling you about the horrific time that his son had and committed suicide.
Granted, I'm just a state representative, but I have a little bit more pull than the average citizen, and I'm able to get some of these taken down occasionally. But that's generally not the case. And with something such as Take It Down, it would allow families to be able to have those images taken down and to have the voice that my son did not have. There was no recourse of being able to know, to be able to get these images down. And in his mind, no one had his back. And this wasn't talked about. So since then, it's been my mission to speak up, scream it from the mountaintops on how we have to hold big tech accountable. And Take It Down does that. So for everyone involved, I really thank you for your involvement and urge for passage within the House.
Brandon, thank you for being here. Thank you for speaking out. You have endured every parent's nightmare. There is not a parent in America or on the face of the world that is not terrified of the pain and tragedy you experienced. And thank you for using Gavin's memory to spur action to protect other children. Our final speaker will be Stefan Turkheimer. Stefan Turkheimer is the Vice President of Public Policy for the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. RAIN is one of the nation's leading anti-sexual violence organizations that works diligently to ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. Stefan, I want to thank you and RAIN for your avid support and hard work to advance the Take It Down Act. And we've had a lot of discussion today about the use of AI to create fake sexually explicit images of real people. We've heard from those who've been impacted by those heinous acts. Can you describe what you're seeing across the country, how technology is changing the threat, and why Congress needs to act?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question. And thank you.
You can push the power button.
Oh, I already turned it on.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for your advocacy, Senator Cruz, and thank you for being here, Madam First Lady, and thank you, Representative Salazar, for your leadership. I'm Stefan Turkheimer, Vice President of the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, and what we're best known for is running the National Sexual Assault Hotline. And the hotline's really two parts. There's a phone call, and there's also an online hotline. And during the pandemic, more than half of the people reaching out to the online hotline were children, which was very surprising to us. And we thought, well, it's people stuck at home with their abuser. There's no other ways to report. After the pandemic ends, the children will fall away from the hotline, but they didn't. And what we started seeing in the data was that things that started as maybe 1 or 2 cases a month started doubling every month from 2019 to now. And it's all image-based sexual abuse. Image-based sexual abuse is often a part of in-person sexual abuse, but it often exists on its own. And all these kids that are calling the hotline, that are reaching out, they're suffering the same trauma, the same harm, very similar harm as what happens in person. And the difference is that it keeps happening over and over and over again every time the images resurface. And all those people on the hotline want to be able to say, is this ends now? We have a way of stopping it. But the reality is we do not. We do not have good options for those kids. We don't have an ability to get these images taken down, which is why I'm so grateful for a bill like this that will say, in 48 hours, this is done. You won't have to be re-traumatized every time you open a laptop. Every text you get, every time you hear that noise, is someone else telling you they've seen you online. That ends when this bill passes. And thank you for your advocacy, and thank you for everyone for being here.
Stefan, thank you. Thank you for your hard work and for RAIN's hard work protecting the victims of sexual violence and exploitation. It's enormously important work. I now want to give an opportunity for each of the congressional members here to either make a comment or ask a question of any of our victims or victim advocates, and we'll start with Speaker Johnson.
Thank you, Ted. Senator great work on this. Representative Salazar, our extraordinary First Lady, for bringing this to the public's attention. I want to thank these extraordinary witnesses that we had today, Breeze and Brandon and Steph, and the ladies, Elliston and Francesca. You're so articulate. You could serve in Congress. In fact, I'll recruit you in a couple of years to be here. Look, I'm just going to say very briefly, state the obvious. As the dark side of technology advances, and these unspeakable evils become part of the culture, the law has to keep up. And I'm really grateful that we have thoughtful legislators here who take the reins on this and are willing to pass legislation to address it. We are anxious to put it on the floor in the House, to get it to President Trump's desk for signature, because we've got to do what we can to stop this. And I am a full supporter of it. I'm grateful to have a moment to be with you all. Yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate your being here, and I appreciate your leadership getting this passed into law so that we can protect these victims and prevent further victims. Majority Leader Scalise.
Well, I as well want to thank Senator Cruz and Congresswoman Salazar for your leadership. We came incredibly close last year to getting this across the finish line, but I think with the leadership and the voice of the First Lady, I just want to applaud First Lady Melania Trump for lending your voice and the strength of your office to this, because I have no doubt this is going to be the year that we actually get the Take It Down Act signed into law. And I think, as you heard from Elliston, Francesca, Breeze, the horrible stories, you could have easily just walked away and hidden and had somebody else pick up the mantle to do this. But you said, no, nobody else should have to do and go through what I've been through. So I'm going to lend my voice and my experience so that we can stop anybody else from having this happen again. And when you then hear, okay, well, it's going to take an act of Congress to fix this, you probably really get concerned and say, well, I've heard how long that takes. And believe me, it can take a long time unless you've got the right coalition. And this time, I think you've got the right coalition. You have the right leaders, a bipartisan coalition. I want to thank my colleague Rokana, Senator Klobuchar, for being a part of this too, because when you look at where we are now, I go back to my days in the State House of Representatives, and this is before social media, but back then, the technology for cameras was getting very, very small and more high definition. And video voyeurism was the crime of the day back then. And you would have people that would put cameras in places where you couldn't even see them and record people, willing or not, and then use it later, usually for similar kind of things, to try to shame somebody, to try to extort somebody, to try to get revenge on somebody. And what shocked us is when we started hearing these stories, when mostly young girls, and I think Elliston was the one that ran the stats, 96% of the victims are typically young girls or children. But what shocked them the most was that that was not a crime. Even when you found out who did it, it wasn't a crime. So guess what? We created the law of video voyeurism, and all of a sudden people started going to jail, and the word got out. And it still happens, unfortunately, but it doesn't happen at the extent that it used to, because now people know there's consequences. The same thing will happen with the Take It Down Act. And I know he's going to talk as well, but I want to applaud Chairman Brett Guthrie of the Energy and Commerce Committee, because he and I have talked about this a number of times. And we have a high commitment, not only to bring it through his committee, but when the bill comes through committee, it will be a priority to bring the bill to the House floor quickly, to get it to the president's desk for signature, because it's going to give victims two things. One, it's going to give them the protection that they deserve. To say within 48 hours, this will be taken down. The platforms will have to take it down. And then it's going to do something else that just doesn't exist at the level it should. And that is the accountability to the perpetrator. Because those boys shouldn't still be in school, strutting around as if nothing happened, as if it's your problem to deal with that they created, because nobody's going to touch them. Will you tag the word felon to the end of that name? All of those athletic ventures go away. A lot of other things go away, and people will think twice. So again, thank you, Senator Cruz. Thank you, Congresswoman Salazar, and thank you, First Lady, for lending your voice. But I really applaud the victims, because we want you to come back. I know somebody in the White House that may be able to get us an invitation to be at that signing ceremony. But just envision the day where all of your work to not just sit quietly, but to speak out on behalf of others so that there aren't victims in the future and that there are consequences in the future. Your work will pay off. We're going to get this done this year.
Well, and thank you, Steve, for your friendship and leadership. And just to underscore something that Steve just said, I feel confident that when this bill is signed into law, that each of the victim advocates, that you'll receive a signing pen that the president used to sign it into law. And by the way, they're about this big. They're massive. Your husband does nothing small. Representative McClain, the head of the House Republican Conference, the number 3 Republican in the House, if you have any comments or questions.
Well, I have a lot to say, but unfortunately I got a short time to say it in. So let me start with thank you. Thank you for putting this on the floor. Thank you, Maria. And thank you to the First Lady to drawing attention. It is disgusting that we have to put this common sense legislation on the floor, but here we sit today, right? Representative Khanna, thank you so much for being here, because this is not a partisan issue. Taking the innocence away from the most vulnerable, our children, this isn't a partisan game. This is games with our children's lives. And as parents, where are you parents? I can't even begin to imagine your emotions. I mean, I applaud you for your decorum. And for the victims, you want to talk about courageous? You want to talk about winners? You want to talk about young people with some guts? You're looking at them right here. We can't thank you enough. We're sorry from the bottom of our hearts for what you've had to go through, and for the parents, for the suffering that you have. But it is darkest before the dawn, and it starts today. So thank you. Thank you for having the courage to stand up to be true winners. And we will, like the leader and the speaker said, we will get this done. We must get this done. So take a moment and reflect in your courage and everything that you've accomplished at such a young age. And parents, I don't know how much more proud you can be of your children. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for your leadership. Now I want to recognize Congressman Kevin Hern, who is the chairman of the Republican Policy Committee, for any comments or questions.
Thanks, Senator, and First Lady, thank you so much for making us, pushing it forward. This is going to be something that, as the Speaker said, this is something we need to modernize law for what's happening with technology. And somebody that's old enough to have 3 children, from 36 to 25, and now 3 grandchildren, and just had a 4th one that's a little girl. And the reason I say all that is the evolution just in our lifespan of the technology that's happened and what's happened to our generations. Bringing this to the forefront is so important for us to make a law that will fix this for future generations. It's tragic. And it shouldn't be, as you said, Senator, for those who have influence. It should be for every American to be able to protect their innocence. Artists and musicians and actors are doing it every day. They've been doing it now for 2 or 3 years. We need to make sure the least of us can have the same opportunity. And as the First Lady said, we should have everybody involved in this. This should be one of the easiest things that's ever gone through Congress. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to address any issues that might come from any of our colleagues. But again, thank you, Congresswoman Salazar, Senator Cruz, and First Lady. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you being involved.
Thank you, Kevin. Now I'd like to recognize Representative Brett Guthrie, the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, my colleague, Congresswoman Salazar. Thank you for doing the First Lady. Thank you for being here and all our advocates. I will say that the Energy and Commerce Committee is going to have a hearing very, very soon. This bill is going to pass out of the House of Representatives. And I would have no doubt that the president would sign this bill, but I certainly have no doubt that the president will sign this bill in a way that has everybody who's been part of this to be a part of it. And I'll just say, it's just kind of interesting to point out, if you think about how this started, So Senator Cruz, I just became chairman of the committee. We had a meeting right after I became chairman, called and said, hey, let's get together and talk about our issues. This is the number one issue. Our committees have a lot of jurisdiction. This is the number one thing that he brought up is the most important thing to him this session to get through the House, from the Senate to the House of Representatives. And it started by a constituent going to visit her senator. And if you think about that, here your constituent goes to visit her senator in America. And now you're sitting next to the First Lady of the United States. This is how it's supposed to work. We're seeing how it's supposed to work. It's a horrific situation, but the response to it is the way that we're supposed to respond. So we have to respond to it. And I'm sitting here just going to guarantee you the House Energy and Commerce Committee, working with our leadership, is going to respond to it. And thanks for all of you for your advocacy, for being here and bringing this attention. Thanks, Senator Cruz, for stressing this in our very first meeting. And this is going to be a top priority over the next few weeks for the Energy and Commerce Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your leadership at ENC. And it's incredibly important. Final speaker, Representative Ro Khanna. Thank you, Ro, for joining us, and you're recognized for any comments or questions.
Well, thank you, Senator Cruz. Thank you for your leadership on this for many years. Thank you, Congresswoman Salazar, for your leadership. Speaker Johnson and Leader Scalise, thank you for on issues like this working in a bipartisan way. First Lady Trump, I really appreciate your bringing your humanity and looking at this as a parent and as a leader and not through politics. Your presence here obviously is going to make a big difference, and I appreciate your being here and doing so for the country in a bipartisan way. Mr. Guffey, sorry for your loss. Thank you for being here. And to Francesca, Elliston, and Breeze, I mean, you inspire all of us. And I just would say this, look, Francesca invoked John F. Kennedy. My parents came here in the 1960s from India when Kennedy was talking about going to the moon. And I know Breeze talked about that. We've got to be able to figure out some ways of coming together as a country, as divided as we are. I represent Silicon Valley. I'm very proud of the innovation. I'm very proud of the technology. But America should lead in making sure that technology protects kids and protects people. And I think this bill, as you've crafted it, Senator Cruz, balances the free speech concerns with the protections, and I'm looking forward to supporting it.
Well, Ro, thank you for being here, and let me say thank you for the bipartisan support we have in this bill. In the Senate, Senator Klobuchar is the lead Democrat author, and we've passed it unanimously through the Senate, and in the House, Madeline Dean and Ro Khanna and other Democrats are supporting it, and I'm confident. There are issues that divide us on partisan bases, but this should not be one of them. This should be one that we all come together and say, look, we need to protect our kids. We need to keep them safe. I will say to the victim advocates, you guys are extraordinary. You are courageous. You are inspirational, and you're making a real difference. So thank you. I will say to the House members, you're seeing something that I'm sure you thought was impossible, which is the Senate doing anything briefly and expeditiously, but this was scheduled to last 1 hour, and we are at 59 minutes, precisely on time. And Madam First Lady, we are grateful for your leadership. Your presence and your advocacy brings people together, inspires them, and is producing real action to fight for these young women and young boys and Americans across the country, and we're grateful. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks to all of you.
It's interesting that, yeah, I'm sure she has heels on, but you don't realize how tall Melania is. I mean, she's towering over these people. I mean, she's big. I don't know how big her heels are, but even with heels, man, she's inches way above these people, and looks fantastic in that suit. It's the kind of suits that only she can wear. Well, anyway, that was the Take It Down Act, which is an act that she's putting forward to stop people who make fake images and turn them into pornographic images when they just stick someone's head or just use her face in AI and do some really, really horrific stuff to these women. It's something that's a long time coming, and that we should see it stop. I mean, there's no place in society for it. We shouldn't be subjected to that whatsoever. I did want to clear something up. Some of you guys were saying this is a first step towards stopping memes. This is completely different. This isn't a meme. I mean, if you make a meme about somebody, it's usually comedic. It's to razz somebody. But this isn't a meme. This is hardcore stuff. And that's as far as I'll take it. It's putting somebody's face into a AI generator and having them do the most, let your imagination go. Okay? Just think of your daughter, your wife, your sister, your mom, their picture, their face. And it's not like it's one of those, funny memes. They could actually turn it into an actual video of her doing stuff. It's some sick, it's not a meme. It's way beyond meme. And it's meant to no other reason but to embarrass and harass people. So no, it's not going to stop memes, because if you think it's funny to put somebody's face on something that's that vile, then you deserve to be taken down. You deserve to be kicked off of the internet. I got no patience for you if that's what you think is funny. And don't come at me with this First Amendment crap. No, you do not have a First Amendment right to do something like that. Period. No, don't have it. So that being said, it's cruel. It's absolutely cruel. Creating real life horrific stuff. Yeah. And just imagine if that was you or someone you loved and somebody was doing that to them. I just don't have any patience for it. That's the kind of person you just want to take out back and let them know what for. Do what you got to do, because that's simply there's no excuse for it. That's how I feel. All right, so I am going to move forward and get done here, because we have an 8 o'clock show. And by the way, that if you saw it broken up, I had no choice. They did this event first. They held President Trump off as long as they could, and then he decided to walk out and speak, so I had to cut right to that. And so those of you who missed it, you may have to rewind before Trump, and I'm sorry. I mean, he takes precedent. He is the president. I'm sure Melania going to have a talk with him. Say, yo, man, I was talking. You couldn't push? You couldn't push it back? But in any event, we get to see all of it. Those young ladies were phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a show tonight at 8 p.m. I'm going to go back in and fill in the blanks from what's going on with Ukraine. There's so much news happening, and so quickly. I mean, it's just amazing. So just to recap, Trump has said, Ukraine, you get nothing. You get nothing anymore. We're not giving you any more money. And he's not. The tariffs take place tomorrow. The tariffs go in at 25%, 20 and 25 tomorrow. George posted this, which is he'll be on with us tomorrow as well. Not sure which time slot. Said most of America's so-called allies immediately started throwing tantrums when President Trump announced tariffs. But Japan and Taiwan immediately urged their business leaders to start planning to invest in America. And in the end, those countries will win alongside the United States. Asian leaders seem to understand this, unlike the Europeans and the Canadians. So true. So absolutely true. You throw your tantrums and stamp your feet, and I'm not going to do it, and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, people who understand business are like, okay, let's go. Let's go cut a deal. So that should tell you something. Why were some people eager to cut a deal and other people just wanted to complain and moan and whine and say nasty things on television? Is because they don't want you to be prosperous. They thought they had it. With Biden in office, the final nail would have been if Kamala would have won. They could have just turned us off and turned us into East Europe. West Europe, rather. Because we would have been broke. They would have kept stealing your money. They would have raised your taxes. And now you watch what happens. They're going to freak out. I guarantee you. Tomorrow will be an awful speech for Democrats. And it's going to get even worse tonight for good old Zelensky. Because talk about a trapped man. He is really trapped. In addition, we just got this posted. Pete Hegseth has done it again. He just renamed Fort Moore in Georgia back to Fort Benning in honor of Corporal Fred G. Benning. In 2021, Congress effectively banned naming military bases after Confederate figures. So he turned it right back. You're watching the Biden administration just get erased, except for these judges. That's about the only thing. That's about the only thing that's standing is all of this stuff with the judges. At this point, thanks to SV for keeping me aware of that. I hope Trump's speech is bold like JD was. Yeah, I don't think you're going to have to worry. I think President Trump is going to walk out there and in no uncertain circumstances tell him get on the bus or get run over by it. I'm not playing with you. We're done. This is where we're going. This is how we're going to do it. And if you don't like it, too effing bad. We're going to make America wealthy, prosperous, safe. He told us all that during the campaign, and he's trying to do that. So I don't know what y'all, what you're going to complain about. And understand, why would you complain? You have to be a blooming idiot to be complaining about people making money. Yeah, bring back the Washington Redskins. Yeah, that would be true. That would be a good one. Yeah, I mean, just Zelensky just might commit Clintism or become unalive. You know, there's people got to be giving him side eye, going, "Oh man, but you're the ones who told me not to do the deal." Hey, I didn't tell you nothing. Oh yeah, you did. No, I didn't tell you nothing. And now he's got to go face people. What an idiot! What an idiot for blowing that up. He's gonna find out. He's gonna find out. So I hope today I didn't change. I haven't had a chance to talk to SV or Ashley or Roaring Rage or anybody, but I hope today was not as bad with the trolls. I mean, I hope people are understanding what free speech really means. You're free to say your opinion, but you're not free to insult other people. That's the big thing. You know, I just hope people understand that. So let me go ahead and do Super Chats. Before I do Super Chats, hey, if you'd like to join 15,000 plus fellow patriots on X in our private X/Twitter group, go to fanfareshop.org/group. Just put in that URL in your browser. It'll take you right to our private group on X. Love to see you there. Let's share some content. And if you'd like to win a hoodie, or rather if you'd like to enter to win a hoodie, go to fanfareshop.org, fanfareshop.org, and register to win a Trump hoodie.
Welcome back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to mention to each one of you is I mentioned earlier, and I don't know if everybody heard it, but we're gonna be ramping up content. I'm gonna be hiring an editor. So these are the live shows, and then on the other side of YouTube are the pre-recorded shows. So when you see something and you're like, "Hey, we already seen it," well, maybe you have, but there's going to be a lot of on-demand chunk content, 12, 15, 18 minutes in case somebody hasn't seen something. Like, for instance, I'll cut up what just happened with Melania, and I'll package that in its own video, and I'll post that later on. And so people who haven't seen it will have a chance to see it. They weren't here for 3.5 hours. So understand you're going to see a whole lot more content pre-recorded. The live show is going to be pretty much the same. So we'll just keep going. All right, so let's look at the super chats here. Anita D, tired of winning? Nope, not at all. The Salty Lima, Okay, Barry, hear me out. I insult myself. Also, pineapples don't go on pizza. I never liked pineapples on pizza. Don't eat pizza anymore, but didn't like it then. Hey, Tommy, you're in danger, grave danger. Is there any other kind? No, that movie. Oh, there's something else. Hold on. I don't know why looking at A Few Good Men line brought this to my head, but it is March 5th. We're heading into spring. So we're going to do one more batch of hoodies. That should probably take us to the end of March. And then we're going to stop the hoodies, so you make sure you sign up. We're going to stop the hoodies and go into spring stuff. So we're going to do a V-neck t-shirt for ladies and a regular t-shirt for guys. So we're going to segue from hoodies into t-shirts because it's going to be springtime. So a nice t-shirt for both, a men's and a woman's. And I don't care if the women want to get a regular one. I don't think guys want the V-neck. But anyway, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be going with t-shirts instead of the hats because t-shirts instead of the hoodies. All right, so let's continue. Ernest Walker, Trump is my president. Barry researches and restreams my needed news. Thank you. And the mods are proctors. Thank you very much. Yeah, you just have to chill. You must chill. Canella, Zelensky should practice Harry Carey if he got any honor left. He lost all credibility with America. I don't think it's just America. I think he's lost some credibility in a big way. Out the box ghetto. I love that handle. So happy I finally made it on time. Thanks, Barry, for making all this understandable. No problem. Let's go. Trump is back. Jim Wright, impossible equals impossible. Never let anyone tell you that you can't do something. Reach for the stars, live your dream. Absolutely. Michelle Roy, thank you. How Granny sees it. The millionaires and billionaires, which they all are. Yeah, the millionaires and billionaires are all bad. And notice how Bernie had to switch that. He doesn't talk about the millionaires and billionaires anymore because he's a millionaire. So now he's cut that part off. It's just the billionaires are bad. The billionaires. Oligarchs. Oligarchs. Fazul, come to the U.S. giving instead of taking. Stephen Bankowski, Barry, I'm a member of an electricians union. They told us that the rule for no tax on overtime is if you make over $100,000 per year. You don't qualify. Were they lying to sway votes? As there's been nothing proposed on paper yet, I have to tell you they were lying. Just saying. I mean, if you have to make over $100,000 a year, why even make the law? Why even say no tax on overtime? That would mean nobody. That's crazy. Nope. Joy Kirkland. No, Brett did miss it. I think he did it on purpose because I think he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I never have liked Brett. She's talking about the interview that Brett Baer had with Howard Lutnick. How Granny sees it again. Thank you. Barry started testing waters on crypto when you had that guy on. I've actually seen that investment grow steadily. Test, measure, and learn. Don't be afraid to try. I don't have much started with 25. Oh, what? What? I started with 25 that's gone to 325? You've 10x'd? 15x'd? Oh, you're going to have some people hitting you up. You go. You go. Wow. Very nice. Hold on. You got to get this. You got to get it. Very interesting. Congrats. And congrats for starting slow. Because now you're playing with house money. You put 25 in, you're up at 325. I mean, you got 300 of house money right now. Good for you. Penny Quarter, thanks, Barry, for the valuable info on crypto. You're welcome. Benedette Salerno, it shows up teams that lives in NATO take Zelensky. Trump takes Putin, game over. It would destroy everything that they've been saying. Far Isle, bankrupt and disarmed, overrun and unhealthy, subservient to the EU, our military policing their world. This is the liberal communist agenda. And making us pay for it. Mr. Anderson, Canada and probate, 51 state happening. Mr. Anderson again, alliance forming Javier Milei, Giorgia Meloni, Viktor Orban. A new NATO, a new kind of NATO. Possibly that could be a new kind of NATO. That would be kind of crazy, wouldn't it? Trump should show vids of men being thrown in vans, kicking and screaming to fight war. One even had his dog taken from him while jogging. I saw that. It was awful. It was awful, Despina. And Biddles Bean, thank you, Barry, for another excellent show. I look forward to spending the day with you tomorrow. Don't forget about tonight. Oh, we're 8 o'clock tonight, talking more about Ukraine, and then also going over some of the stuff we have planned for tomorrow. I'll show you the schedule for tomorrow. Long day. But you know, if you guys watch RSBN or Live Now from Fox, and you see some of what they do, which I've been watching intently, going, okay. So you come on, and you turn on, and you talk, and you do your stuff, and then you go off, and they come back, and they show a video of something that happened before, and then they come back on and talk and do something and talk about some news, and then they go off and they show a video of something that happened before. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you the interview times when they're coming on, and so around those times you guys could actually figure out when you want to come in. So I am going to turn on the after show mix. That's, I guess, what we can call it. You guys can all hang out. I'm going to get out of here now, and then we'll talk to you guys tonight at 8 p.m. Stay safe. See you guys tonight. Thanks for tuning in.